This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Gotham City, like any other large metropolis, abounds in girls of all shapes and sizes. Debutantes, nurses, stenographers, and librarians.
Gotham City Library, Miss Gordon speaking.
Lopez hair removal. This is Jose.
Holy transformation. 1 minute, plain Barbara Gordon, librarian and Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And the next minute, something new has been added. Batgirl, modeled after her idol, Batman.
Holy apparition! No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Capes Crusaders.
It took me 3 years to track down the Jade Gato, and 3 more to figure out how to steal it.
Funny, it only took me 10 minutes to figure out how to snatch it back. No matter how you do it, crime doesn't pay girls.
Oh, that's how it always begins. Yes! Sawete mihi nomen est stella et hoc est Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 206 for May MMXXI. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by
Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, a new monthly show chronicling the adventures of the JLI era by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. We'll be going issue by issue in release order, tackling the core Justice League title, Justice League Europe, and the quarterly book. Along the way, we'll take time out for special episodes covering various spin-offs, cartoon appearances, the infamous TV pilot, and much more. So join me in an ever-changing roster of guest hosts as we celebrate your favorite JLI members, such as
Martian Manhunter,
Batman,
Dr. Fate,
Black Canary,
Fire,
Ice,
Maxwell Lord,
Oberon,
Captain Marvel,
Rocket Red,
Captain Atom,
Mr. Miracle,
Guy Gardner,
Booster Gold,
Blue Beetle,
Nort,
and many, many more. Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, part of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Want to make something of it?
I always like to call it the blah, blah, blah podcast. But I actually guest star with Shagalicious, who's Donovan's BFF, on the May episode where we cover Justice League Europe number 14. And I really actually enjoyed reading and catching up on that particular series. Batgirl the Oracle is also brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out milehighcomics.com. Well, you can see him here, his little face, and he's a hard man, as Mama Grant would say, and I think we might see his hardness in this episode. He's probably going to be defending Bat Jerk, or Bruce Jerk Murderer, as I'm calling him this time.
We're starting right away.
Bruce Jerk Murderer. It is my former beloved himself, Donovan Morgan Grant. Welcome.
Well, yes, only I could be on the defense team for socialite Bruce Wayne, who's done nothing wrong, and we shall deliberate how he has been falsely accused of murder. And the story which gives a lot of evidence that he committed murder.
I know, it's true. There's a lot of stuff that happens. I feel like we scheduled this, I don't know. Do you think like a year ago you're like, I really need to be on this? Or you don't ever say need, but I really want to be on your show when you're covering Bruce Jerk Murderer. But it feels like it's been like a while that we've been waiting for this, anticipating.
Yeah. I know that like whenever you got, once you got in the habit of other podcasters kind of calling stories, I definitely threw that out there as soon as I was aware of it. And then once you're kind of closing in, definitely like once you hit like the 2000s and probably after No Man's Land, which is a couple of years ago by now, I was like, this is important to me, because it is important to me. I think this is, I'll just say right now, like when I started collecting comic books, buying comic books, like staying in financially, this was the first story I was on the ground floor for. So it is of particular import to me.
Yeah. Near and dear to your heart. Well, this should be really interesting once we start talking about it. And originally, I thought we were going to do Murderer and Fugitive all in one episode. And then you sent me like the document of all the issues. And I was like, yeah, that's a no-go. That would be like back to
like Nightfall, Night's End, and Night's Quest all in one.
I know. Or back to No Man's Land, which just completely wore me out, all of those issues. I mean, it was amazing, but still sort of wore me out. Just housekeeping wise, this is going to be a top heavy episode. If you can think back to when Professor Cheapskate, aka Alan Middleton, was on and we did Officer Down, we loaded up the first part and then we took a break after the synopsis. And then when we came back, the second part was just completely devoted to discussing it. And so that's what we'll do here as well. The final thing in the intro, I sent this to Donovan, something called Hidden Tribes, which is a really interesting site as well as a project. And this was something that my final year at Covenant, my nemesis Heath Barr, Sam Heath, who's been on this show twice now, he sent this out to everybody, to, I guess, his friend group, and then was really interested in what this was. So I'll at least talk about what they mention. So this Hidden Tribe site says, America has never felt so divided. Bitter debates that were once confined to congressional hearings and cable TV have now found their way into every part of our lives, from our Facebook feeds to the family dinner table. But most Americans are tired of this us versus them mindset and are eager to find common ground. This is the message we've heard from more than 8,000 Americans in one of our country's largest ever studies of polarization. We hold dissimilar views on many issues. However, more than 3 in 4 Americans also believe that our differences aren't so great that we can't work together. So a range of major issues such as immigration, white privilege, sexual harassment, Islamophobia. And basically, their research concludes that we have become a set of tribes with different codes, values, and even facts. The way I would look at it is you're not just conservative or liberal. There are all these different tribes depending on what it is. So this is really interesting. You can take a quiz. The quiz takes 8 minutes. And so I thought it'd be interesting to see what we got. And this is the second time I took the quiz. I'm pretty sure I got the same answer both times. I'll say that my tribe is of the traditional liberals, and I'll explain what this is. So it's 11% of Americans, and a 73-year-old woman from Texas who is known as a traditional liberal, is quoted as saying, "I think some people's situations are challenging, and no matter how hard they work, they can't get ahead. That's why I don't like the Republican Party. They don't want to help. I think some kinds of people need help, and the government should help them." And so the definition of this, or the description, is traditional liberals reflect the liberal ideals of the baby boomer generation. They maintain idealistic attitudes about the potential for social justice in America, yet they are less ideological than progressive activists. They also are not as intolerant of conservatives. They have strong humanitarian values, and around half say that religion is important to them. Traditional liberals are significantly more likely to say that people need to be willing to listen to others and compromise. They're the most likely group, along with progressive activists, to handle conflict by getting to the heart of the disagreement. Overall, traditional liberals respond best to rational arguments and are inclined to place more faith in the viability of American institutions. I think that'd be a bit iffy, especially with some of my answers, even if they are disillusioned with the country's current direction. And my main concerns are leadership and division in society. So I would say mostly that describes me. I don't think I'm as inclined to place faith in American institutions, so that might be a bit iffy. That's sort of been my trend, going away from, I think, faith in that over the past few years. But I'm interested in what you got.
What do you think I got?
That's a good question. Let me scroll through really quickly and see. So our options are you a progressive activist? Actually, that's the first one. That seems like you. I'm just looking. Strong ideological views, high levels of engagement with political issues, and the highest levels of education and socioeconomic status. Highly sensitive to issues of fairness and equity in society. Yeah, are you? Are you
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I thought it was a good TradCon.
Do you feel like that fits you? Like, because you were answering the questions, of course, but when you got that, did you feel like, yeah, that fits me to a T?
Well, I think before I took the quiz, they kind of present those options to you. And I was like, I bet I'm this. 8% of Americans, according to this survey, my main concerns are inequality, poverty, and climate change. More than twice as likely to list politics as a hobby. 3 times more likely to say that people's outcomes that result from, quote unquote, luck and circumstance. Less likely to believe the world is becoming a more and more dangerous place, which is true, which is interesting. Almost 3 times more likely to be ashamed of being American. 11% more likely to be white. Well, they got me there. So I mean, however they found that through their quiz, I wholeheartedly accept that description.
So I'm actually shocked at this one. You believe that the world is not becoming a dangerous place. You think the trend is going the opposite way?
Well, I feel that, like, even though we kind of have these sort of like alley fights in terms of the Me Too movement and quote unquote cancel culture and free speech, and then like tolerance and equality are becoming more and more normalized by way of the media. I forget who I was talking to, whether it was somebody. I probably said it to more than one person. But like, if you think, for instance, like gay kids and kids in the LGBT plus community, especially when I mean kids, I mean like Generation Z and younger, they're not going to really know a reality where, or at least many more people more so than not, aren't going to know a reality where you can't come out as gay, or the idea of gay kids is like a special episode on a television show. That's going to be foreign to them. And again, I'm not presuming that like that's 100% across America, but more so than not. And that's especially true because of things like social media. Social media, we kind of came into it as adults. They're growing up with social media, so they're exposed to TikTok and YouTube and Twitter and web series and videos of people who are out and free with their identity. And so they are seeing something that's certainly not anything to be ashamed of or to harass people over. And that's kind of why I feel that like it's less likely for them to, they're still at risk from intolerance, but it's far less likely for them to like be in a scenario or at least feel as though that the world at large they're not people like them. And I think that lends itself to both violence from others and also violence to yourself. You're less likely to harm yourself if you don't feel alone. So yeah, no, I think that tracks. I mean, there's obviously the threats of nuclear annihilation, which we always go through in terms of the arms race, and there's also climate change kind of bearing towards that, and there's economic threats from foreign powers like China and Russia. But I feel as though in the information age, young people are much more inclined to readily make themselves aware and readily make themselves unprejudiced when it comes to vulnerable people. So yeah, I feel that like in that way, it's becoming less dangerous. Even though a lot of crimes are being kind of highlighted now, it's no more of a increase, or at least in regards to things that are kind of being unremarked upon in the past, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about, how there are certain things. And I'm like, yeah, and people hacking gas pipelines.
Oh, yeah.
Ay, ay, ay. Did that happen to you? Did people go crazy and do the whole, I'm going to buy as much toilet paper as possible, but this time it's, I'm going to buy as much gasoline as possible? Yeah,
the former, not the latter. I'm not really, honestly, I've been so like back and forth on work. I've not really experienced a lot of the gas shortage. I got gas 2 days ago.
It was last week that it was like, yeah. People were loading thing, and it wasn't, so it was hard to get gas, period. And then people decided if they could get it, they were really going to get it. So it's just like, we're going to get as much gasoline as possible. So, they're having their family members and they're like filling up those little red things.
There was a gas shortage a few years ago when I was delivering pizza. That was difficult because we couldn't do our jobs. And so I remember my uncle and I kind of went out and like tried to siphon some gas from places.
Oh my gosh! You had the tube and
no.
Cars.
I wasn't asking people for breath mints or whatever, but like there's like a fluid you can use to kind of make it slick, to kind of like save on the amount and stuff.
Gotcha.
We weren't breaking in any place, but like he showed me how to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing some Q&A situations in the beginning. It's fun now. If I say something about Q&A, you're here to defend yourself, which you can't often do. Yes.
I say Q&A, and my girlfriend, whenever we text and I say, "Oh, I'm going to record this," she always says, "It looks like you're saying you're about to record the QAnon podcast." And every time I do that, it's like, "No, it's not QAnon." And she's like, "Oh, you're about to record your cult podcast." I was like, "No, stop." And she's listened to it, so I don't know why.
Oh man, well, yeah, I think what's really happened is that Batgirl the Oracle and Q&A have become, we're in a feud, I think, and we're going to get some T-shirts made. Team
Go on.
Quinoa and Quinoa and Team Bateau, and see how many T-shirts sell. It's kind of like Lindsay Ellis and ContraPoints.
Yes, I got my Team Natalie.
Yeah,
my Team Natalie badge.
So
yes.
Here you go. You helped her win. Okay. Well, we are your BFF, Shagalicious. We're going to go to our Find Your Joy segment, which is Shag's Mac and Cheese of Comfort and Joy. So in this current time, which I think, is better than 2020, of course, but still some hard things are going on. What sorts of things have been bringing you joy?
Gravity Falls.
How far are you?
I'm still on season 1.
Okay. Can you please describe your first experience with
Well, you were there.
I know I was.
I didn't expect it to be as like, I knew it was a cartoon that would be humorous, so I didn't expect it to be as like weird as it is, specifically the characters.
Yeah.
And this is not because of the show. Like I had to kind of watch that episode where Dipper's trying to be more manly like 3 times because I was always interrupted over the course of a few days. It's very, very funny. The characters are very, very likable. And like Mabel is adorable. And one episode I was really, really into, the one where the rich kid, like the kid who kind of sounds like a televangelist, was trying to get with Mabel, and he ends up trying to murder Dipper and stuff. I was like, this is kind of cool. I mean, it wasn't like all that serious, but like, because I don't know, does the show turn into like a storyline, or is it kind of like the done in ones?
It does. No, right now it's done in ones, but things will start, like little pieces and threads will start to connect especially like season 2.
Okay. I was like, the last episode I saw, the one thing I was unsure about was like the whole, like the 8.5 president. I was like, this is a little weird, but I know it's a cartoon, so I'll see where it goes. But I'm enjoying it. It's consistently funny. It's reliably funny, and I think it has a really clever sense of humor. Like I remember when Dipper was hanging out with what's the older girl's name?
Wendy,
her friends, and like one of her friends was like, "Nice job, genius," and the other guy was like, "Your mom's a genius." And I was like, "That's really funny," because it's like it goes for like sort of like teenage edgy humor, but they're not saying anything. So I thought that was particularly clever. So yeah, no, Gravity Falls. I'm looking forward, and I was surprised when you told me how short it was compared to Steven Universe. So I'm looking forward on kind of like whenever I'm very busy right now, but whenever I have time, to kind of barrel on down throughout that series.
Yeah. Have you, by any chance, seen the episode where Mabel is in the convenience store? I can't remember what episode that is. You'll know. And some fun dip is involved. Have you seen this?
Yes.
She gets high on the fun dip. It's like psychedelic.
Yeah, she's tripping. Yeah. She's like immediately the best character. I love Kristen Shaw to begin with, and she's just adorable in that show.
What is one of my favorite moments of when I visited you recently is we were watching this, and for me it's just like, this is normal behavior because Mabel's like me, maybe ratcheted up a bit, but I'm just sitting there and you I don't know if we were on episode 1, but you lean down, take the PS4 controller, because we were using that, and press pause and turn to me. And straight up, this girl has ADD and like, what's going on with this show? Like, you had to put everything to a stop to ask for clarification. I'm like, is it why, is this what it is? And I'm like, yeah, this is it. That's fun.
It's truly funny, and I think that like cartoons are of a higher quality currently, but that one, because I know that one's that's like almost 10 years ago. I can see because we have like in the kids section in Gravity Falls like source books and stuff. I can immediately, not that I ever doubted it, but I can immediately see why it's so appealing, because it's just funny, and it's one of those shows where like if I kind of calm down and relax, I absolutely pop on Disney Plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I have 3 things. So May 7th, I went to a concert. Allie and AJ, they were putting on a virtual concert, and it was amazing. They went through their whole new album, A Touch of the Beat Gets You Out on Your Feet, Gets You Up and Into the Sun. And it was amazing. It was so amazing. And what's even more amazing is I was on a walk with Shy that day, and I said, I wish they would just come to the Norva, which is in Norfolk, because it's a small venue and they only play small venues. And then later that day, they released their whole 2022 schedule, and they're coming to the Norva. And so I've already bought tickets for May 12th, 2022. I'm so pumped for that. So that was exciting. I finally played Resident Evil 3 and beat it. And it was a fun time as well as a horrifying time per usual. Nemesis is a bit worse than Mr. X because he's a bit more brutal in his following tactics. Trying to think, it took me 4 times, at least 4 to 5 times, to finish the hospital section because all these swarms with Carlos. But that was a fun time. And now I have RE8. I've rented that from GameFly. I've yet to begin it, but I think tomorrow I'm really going to sit down and do it. Yeah. And that's a different experience just because it's first person, so it's even more horrifying. But I'm interested to see this lady Dimitris in person, as it were. And then finally, as a recommendation,
as are many.
I know. I will probably die accidentally, even though I know many people just want to run into her arms. But I will immediately call Harold after I encounter her / I die for the first time. I also highly recommend the Netflix film, and it was up for an Academy Award for animated feature film, Over the Moon. So good. The music is amazing, and it's just so cute and heartwarming. I've actually seen it twice, so I highly recommend that movie. Yeah, I think that's it. And
I've not heard of that. Let me check it out.
By the way, what a heartbreaking ending to the Academy Awards. It was also weird.
In what regard?
Because they saved Best Actor for last, and usually the last one is Best Picture. And so It seems like the intention was, well, Chadwick is going to get Best Actor. We should end the night with him. And then Best Actor goes to Anthony Hopkins. What a weird thing.
I love how every year they screw up somehow, because it wasn't even so much that, or it wasn't just that. It was like they made these like NFTs out of Boseman's head. And it was almost like ghastly thing where they had to apologize. Okay, yeah, that was rather crass. And what are you doing?
The best intentions, I suppose. Okay, so our final 2 segments, and then we'll actually get into comics. Have you seen any anime that you would like to recommend?
Oh, yeah. I don't think I told you about this. I watched all of Demon Slayer.
Oh, okay. How many seasons is that?
Currently, it's just one. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
26 episodes. And like the other week, a movie came out, which isn't continuity. Like the movie picks up right where the season left off.
Okay.
A couple of things. First of all, my girlfriend Kia, she asked if I had seen it because she wanted to see the movie, and I caught up, so I can be caught up with her so we can watch the movie. It's the first time I was at a movie since Birds of Prey.
Honestly, was it in a theater?
Yeah, it was in our indie theater at the Belcourt in Nashville, right next to Jenny's. So we saw it, and it was cool. But Demon Slayer, like the manga, is a super hit. It's one of those like big hit franchises because we have the current anime and the movie are about like volume 8 of the manga. But we currently have at our Barnes & Noble up to like volumes like 2021. It is a gigantic seller. I mean, people are buying that every day. It's a very, very, and I think you'd like it. It's about, demons. Like it kind of takes place in the old school, like retro feudal Japan where, they use swords and stuff. But it's about a teenager named Tanjiro. And if you start it, like the first episode kind of shocked me. I don't know why it did, but like, I will say that like the premise is that his sister is kind of turned into a demon, but she's not a full demon. So he becomes a demon slayer to try to find a way to turn her back into human. And he's about 16 in the show. She's about like 15. And so they kind of travel, they meet some other characters and like destroy demons. It's a pretty straightforward show. And like, there's not really a lot of like content. Like there's like zero fan service and stuff, but it is incredibly violent because the way to kill a demon is to kind of cut their head off. So there's just a lot of blood and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you dig it. It's one of the most gorgeous anime series I've seen in a long time because like he does a lot of like kind of like martial arts sword fighting, and there's these beautiful colors blasting around. There's some very interestingly designed characters. I think you would very much enjoy it. And like, I knocked that out in a day because I had to. I was watching the episodes on 1.5 speed on Netflix.
Oh my gosh.
Because like the movie started at 7. But I was honestly into it. Like I wasn't just like, okay, let's hurry up. I was like, no, this is cool. I thought that like the development was cool. I thought the trials and tribulations Tanjiro was going through was cool. And it's fun every now and then. I am kind of caught up on the latest shows, like when I was into Kill la Kill, when I got into My Hero Academia, and now this. And My Hero Academia is on its new season, so I'm trying to play catch up with that as well. What about yourself?
It does seem, I will say what I'm going to recommend, but it does seem like that is the trend with the Netflix original anime series, that they do tend to be more violent, because I'm just thinking of the past ones that I've seen. Yasuke is going to be my recommendation, so I'll talk about that. But also Blood of Zeus was really violent. And then the one I just watched before was Dota Dragon's Blood. And so it's like, I guess maybe they're just going the violent route. And I did try that one about the sky, like the tower of, I don't remember what it's called, but I could only get through half of an episode because there was like a sexual assault, and I'm like, I don't need this. Goodbye. So we'll see. So hopefully when Comey can't communicate, that'll be my like slice of life.
Oh, I've been reading that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really good.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Just the preview of it looks really good. So yeah, Yasuke is what I'm going to recommend here. And actually, for listeners of the podcast, the intro song that I am going to use is the intro for this. So just be aware. But yeah, 6 episodes. They're about 30 minutes. In an alternate reality, 16th century feudal Japan, reimagined with magic and advanced technology, an African man named Yasuke went from being in the service of Jesuit missionaries during the Naban trade to being a warrior and retainer in the service of Lord Oda Nobunaga. In the year 1582, he witnessed the fall of Nobunaga's forces in battle at Honoji Temple against the army of the Dark General, who served the demonic warlord Yami no Daimyo. With Nobunaga's death and the defeat of his forces, Yami no Daimyo assumes complete control of the land. 20 years later, Yasuke tries to put his storied past as a legendary Ronin known as the Black Samurai behind him and retires as a recluse boatman named Yasan. At a remote village. He encounters a singer at a local bar named Ichika and later agrees to take her and her daughter, I'll say, Saki, a sick girl with mysterious magical powers, north to see a special doctor to help with Saki's condition. After an attack by mercenaries who are after Ichika and Saki, Yasuke is tasked with protecting Saki while coming to terms with his past, dealing with would-be conquerors of Japan, and facing dark supernatural elements as Yasuke and Saki find themselves in the middle of a struggle against the forces of Yami no Daimyo. Whew! And it is starring Lakeith, what's his last name?
Lakeith Stanfield.
Stanfield, yeah. So he is Yasuke. So I've been enjoying that. So it's got the history aspect of it, but also, you've got the
he's a real guy.
Supernatural. I know the twist with the supernatural. It's like a theme that with them, you've got the history twisted with the supernatural. I don't know what that is about, but yeah, I've enjoyed it, and it feels like
weird,
an authentic. Well, I was going to say like, it feels like an authentic Black experience, just with like the music that is used. And Yasuke himself, and I know it's in feudal Japan, but it just like I really feel like it's a really cool Black story that is in a different era that you wouldn't expect to be witnessing a Black story.
What I think it is, because like the people behind it are, you have LaShawn Thomas, who did Cannon Busters, who is an American Black animator who's heavily influenced in anime. You have Keith Stanfield, who was L in the live action Netflix Death Note film. And you have Thundercat, who's done a lot of like, he's an anime fan. He has a song called Dragon Ball Do-Rag.
And he was in Carol and Tuesday. Yes,
Carol and Tuesday. It was funny because like this is kind of, a lot of blurs were going to be into this. And my cousin texted me, "Oh, have you seen Yasuke?" And I was like, "Oh, no, not yet." And I was like, I was kind of just like making a joke, like, "Oh, how realistic is it?" Because I had not seen a lot of footage of it, and he was like, "None." And I watched the first episode, and it's like, "Giant, what happened?" So that was a shock. It was like a punch in the face.
Yeah, I will agree.
Cool.
I'm with you, because I thought, oh, it's going to be like looking at this Black samurai who was a real individual, like looking at this, and then all of a sudden, the giant robots. I thought, oh, okay, I guess I'll rethink everything. Okay, and our final segment, literature recommendations. Have you been reading anything? Have you been reading something that you need to read in order for me to watch Steven Universe?
Oh, are you talking about Naomi Alderman's The Power?
Yes, I am.
Not yet?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. But I am watching Gravity Falls, so there is half of that on my way.
True. Yeah.
I think I told you, I picked up, there's a recent publication of James Baldwin's Nothing Personal essay that I'm reading. It's very short. It's less than 100 pages, but I'm not done with it yet. But I'm reading that.
Okay.
And then also Comey Can't Communicate, the manga.
Oh, yes. How many volumes does that have?
I was talking about it with Trevor, the manga lead in our store. And we talk about like manga and anime all the time. He actually has his own YouTube page because he's big into Comey. I think Comey has like a lot more in Japan than America currently has. Okay. But if I recall correctly, at our store, it's in like double digits. I think it's about like 10 or 12. I think he said it's like well over 20 in Japan.
I always get lost because I read so much. But now that I have a new job, I can't read as much as I did. So now everything's slowing down. I think that the last thing I recommended was The Vanishing. Maybe it's not. I definitely know I did Redefining Realness because I spoke highly of that. So I'll say The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And this is getting a lot of hype, and it's about twins, and they come from this town where basically everyone is really light skinned and to the extent, colorism is real in this whole novel, basically. But if anyone were to come that's really dark, it's like complete prejudice against them. But they decide to run away from this town, and you find out that one of them decided to live as a Black woman, and the other twin decides to live as a white woman. And so it's this story, and it goes back and forth in time, present day versus the past, and the past starts to meet up with that. So it was actually really interesting. Sometimes I'm suspicious about books that people are like, this is amazing, because I'm a queen of counter opinions. So I'm like, I don't know. Then I read The Color of Compromise, The Truth About the American Church's Complicity in Racism by Jamar Tisby, and a foreword by Lecrae, by the way.
Oh, I know exactly what that book is. I've seen it a lot in our store. I've sold it in our store. That looks very interesting.
It was. A Raisin in the Sun, I've read now for the second time. You can catch it on June's episode of Required Reading with Tom. Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine, or I think probably Wine. And this takes place during World War II. And it's about a friendship between two women. They're English. One's Scottish, which is a huge point. Scottish and English Air Force pilots. And one of them is captured by the Germans. And then, of course, Bruce Wayne Murder. And I'm nearly done. I will finish it tomorrow. I lost a bet to my nemesis Heath Bar. And so because we see who can guess the Academy Awards better, and he won again. And so he told me, you need to read. He kept asking me, have you read this? And I'm like, yeah, I've read that. And he said, okay, you have a choice for James Baldwin. You can either read Go Tell It on the Mountain or Beale Street. If Beale Street Could Talk. Is that what it is? Not speak, right?
Yeah.
Talk.
Yeah.
I said, well, I've seen the film, which isn't necessarily the same thing, but I had known nothing about Go Tell It on the Mountain. So that is what I'm currently reading. So he was speaking highly of it, and I've enjoyed it. It's not an easy read in the sense of like, it's not uplifting there. It's struggle literature.
In a way.
But James Baldwin, I've really come to appreciate him. And actually for Mother's Day, I gave my mother The Fire Next Time. And I said, well, you should read it because we've been having great talks recently about racism and whiteson, basically. And she read his letter to the nephew right away. And she's like, I really love this. And so she's reading that. So anyways, there you go.
Oh, excellent. Good.
Indeed. Okay. So we're doing this. We are doing this. We're actually going to do comics now. And we're going to do our modern quickies, as I say. And so it's been weird that I have actually been able to, I didn't think I was going to be able to this episode, but Nightwing just came out, so I can. I am of the month, because normally it's the month prior, but it's been nice to be able to talk about, these came out in May and I'm recording in May. So first, Batman 108, which is the Cowardly Lot Part 3, writer James Tynion IV, artist George Jimenez, and colorist Tomu Mori. And the synopsis from the publisher: Batman goes undercover to infiltrate the transhumanist gang known as the Unsanity Collective, as matches Malone, of course, and learn more about their sudden appearance in Gotham. And what nefarious plans does Simon Saint have for Arkham Day survivor Sean Mahoney? How does it connect to the Magistrate? And in part 2 of the action-packed, bone-rattling Ghostmaker backup story, can our heroes stand up to the horror of Kid Kawaii? Plus, don't miss the debut of the mysterious Miracle Molly. And Oracle doesn't really play too much of a part here. She does spot Scarecrow on top of a roof who is watching during a press conference, and she tries to contact Batman after 12 hours of nothing, which that he's not contacted her for 12 hours, which makes sense since he's undercover as Matches. I will say she's wearing the same outfit that she has the previous issues, which is fine, I suppose, but I don't think it's all happened in one night. So... okay, but I'm going to screen share on this because I love it. Before we started recording, I was actually talking to Don about how much I love Nightwing, and it's just nice to look forward to something from DC Comics again.
I know, right?
Yeah. And I did like issue 1 of Damian's Robin that's coming out, but that was just issue 1, so it's too soon to see. I said when we weren't recording, I'm being punished for wanting to look at Hot Nightwing. So this is what happens to us. But I do want to go through, you don't need to see our faces. I would just be gushing and drooling. I've got a towel next to me. But I do want to go through some of these particular pages. Are you still with me, Donovan?
I'm still with you. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to be sure it wasn't frozen.
Sure.
And
I am here.
Okay, so Nightwing 80, Leaping into the Light Part 3, writer Tom Taylor, artist Bruno Redondo, colorist Adriano Lucas. Dick Grayson's always had a big heart, from protecting those persecuted by bullies in his youth to combating evil alongside Batman as Robin to pledging his newly inherited wealth to enriching Bloodhaven as Nightwing. His kindness and generosity have always guided his life, but now a new villain stalks the back alleys of Bloodhaven, removing the hearts of the city's most vulnerable. Who is this terrifying new menace named Heartless, and will he be able to resist plucking out the biggest heart in all Bloodhaven? Read this literally heart-wrenching issue to find out. Okay, so I literally read this right before this show, and so there were some things that I wanted to say. First of all, sorry, I felt like I yelled.
So sexy.
Every time. I think I've also become a bit of a troll on Instagram for any artist that has Nightwing. I basically am like, show me the butt. So they probably mute me. I don't even know. So,
he needs to be bending over.
golly. Okay. First, stylish. Look at this. I love this. I just feel like it depends on the artist, but definitely in Batman and then in Nightwing, I just love her style. And I also think that maybe Bruno Redondo thought that the green jumper was absurd. So that's why he decided to give her like civvies, fashionable civvies, rather than that green jumper. I also like the t-shirt that he drew on. I don't know if you noticed this detail, Donovan, the black.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. Okay. I love this section right here.
What's the nature of your relationship?
Yes. And then he blows out like a, which happens often between you and I. Like I don't know, talk about hard things sometimes.
Oh, too close to home. Also, did you notice the mugs?
The Gotham?
Well, also the Batman with the bomb over his head. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
It is, yes. I didn't notice that one. I noticed the other one. Yeah, so he said, so there's like, they look at each other and Dick says, I've been wondering that myself, but interrogation is not how I wanted to broach the subject. And at the same time, probably, she says, that's not relevant. And then they say, I think we'll decide what's relevant. And she mentions she has a law degree, which is interesting because, of course, we'll talk about that.
Yes, it's explicitly
in Bruce Jerk. Yeah,
call back to this.
Absolutely. Bruce Jerk murder. The art I just love, but I love these types of scenes where they use like the whole space, not only of the actual comic, but the whole architectural space as well. And you can see them moving around. We've got a plan look.
Yes.
I don't know, just so good. And so she was recording the entire time because if you notice, she had her glasses on, but again, not the green jumper. So she can be Oracle, but in civvy. So that green jumper gets on my nerves. I love this scene. First of all, it was funny because I thought of you immediately with this one text box that said Tim Drake thought of by many as the best Robin. I totally get it.
Who is he talking about? The fans?
Yeah.
That's such a fourth wall breaking comment.
And then the first thing he does, Batman wanted me to give you something. It's a wallet. It's a wallet chain. It means kids can't steal your money. And as an added bonus, you confront a soft metal band in the early 2000s. And then Dick says, I'm never living this down, am I? Of course not. I just feel like this book has breathed new life into the Bat family.
Absolutely.
Just the relationships between all of them. I don't know what Bruce will be like or Batman if he shows up in this book, but just everyone, how they're getting around. Like it feels like a family, like they have a text chain. Cassandra uses emoji, like all these things. Like this is so wonderful. It is so wonderful. I laughed out loud. Is it this one? Let me see here. Oh,
when Tim goes into incognito.
I laughed out loud. Yeah, because Tim goes undercover with the dog, the little puppy, and they're on comms. And Tim says, sure. So Babs stayed the night, huh? And he says, I slept on the couch. And Tim says, I see. And then there's this like annoyed little, almost
Chibi.
like manga style. Yeah, like, I'm on this channel, right? And then he's like the Josh Bertoni / Homer Simpson. No, I do now. But I cracked up when I was reading this, just like her annoyed little face. Oh, man. Yeah, just, I can't speak enough about how fun this is. And of course, there are some serious issues and just getting all of this money from Alfred and how he's going to spend it. And of course, helping people out. And this homeless community, mainly filled with youths and whoever this heartless person is. But yeah, you just did a review on this. So do you want to talk about it? I just wanted to look at how Babs is treated and all these fun things, but I would just gush about it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Nightwing 80?
I currently am digging the Bat books that I'm reading. I think Tynion's doing solid work on Batman. I'm enjoying his work on Joker because, as we were talking about, it's a Jim Gordon title, basically. I read Robin. I thought it was cool. Batman Urban Legends is telling a Jason Todd story that I'm digging. I think that's actually a very good story. But this is the best book out of all of them because, one, it's that glorious chemistry of great writing and great artwork. Neither territory is slacking. Secondly, it feels like such a fan-driven run because it brings us into characters that we're familiar with. presents their relationships in ways which we understand them to be at the best of times. There's no baggage. There's sly references, like the whole Nightwing and Tim Drake thing on the trains. That is explicitly from the Chuck Dixon, Scott McDaniel issue, Nightwing 25, where Tim and Dick spent the whole time training and talking about girls and stuff on the train.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Barbara's law degree, Dick being in the police at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're past the point where like we're starting over with a new 52. Like we're catching up with the characters that we know and love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome. I mean, the plot's very straightforward. It's a fine plot. There's nothing wrong with the plot. But like you're kind of just spending time with old friends in this issue. And it's just, I probably should have given it a perfect score. I gave it a 4.5.
How could you?
I feel that like maybe a 5 would have required like a surprise or a shock, but this was like really. I said there's nothing wrong with this issue, and it's been 3 issues in, and I feel as though I can rely upon this series to be great, like the best read of the week. And again, I mean, the other week I was really enjoying Batman and Superman, which is telling a fun story. Batman Black and White, which had a really great story. So like, I feel as though right now we're kind of back in, we're out of the caves, and where the majority of the Bat books are good. I don't really know of one that's, I mean, especially with Batgirl having ended right now, I don't know of one that's really bad. But this one is like not just not bad, it's great, and I love it.
Absolutely. I did wonder, have you read the Hawkeye run by Matt Fraction and David, I think it's Aja, unless it's Aja?
I have the first 2 trades, but I fell off of it.
Okay. I just wondered, do you feel like there's any influence from that? Just how the art is laid out, really dynamic art. And let's see, there's that one fight, I guess it's at the end, with how they use
with them versus
the
electrocutioner stuff.
Yes. And not only how Nightwing assembles his Escrima-Sticks into one bow staff, but then he actually uses Tim Drake trying to find this, which I thought was pretty cool. And then the puppy, I also think like, it's a puppy in there, this is always good. And there's that whole line about people are probably more likely to talk to you if there's a dog and everything. I just wonder if you saw any influence there, or do you just think this is all Bruno Redondo on his own and Tom Taylor?
I mean, that straight up did not come across my mind because it's been forever since I've read Hawkeye. But it's not. I mean, it's been about 10 years. It's not impossible. I mean, I mean, Redondo more than Taylor, I would imagine, would have taken like a lot of his like blocking shots or fight choreography.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this kind of style of artwork in terms of like fighting. Whenever I see like multiple Nightwings, I just think of Scott McDaniel. But there's absolutely room. That's a great splash page. There's absolutely room for there to have been a Marvel or Hawkeye specific influence.
Yeah.
Because the writing is so clearly influenced by the previous. I love that shot. I also saw, and I didn't mention this in my review, some of Redondo's artwork, specifically how Tim Drake looks in that shot, reminds me a little bit of Roger Robinson from the Gotham Knights days. Okay. And if you're not familiar with him, he did the issue in Bruce Wayne Murderer, like when Nightwing and Robin are talking about whether Batman's guilty or not. Like that's the artist of that. And because he did have these kind of like interesting perspectives that just reminded me of him, even though if it's not an active influence. But that was cool too. I like the idea that like Nightwing's Escrima-Sticks can turn into Robin's bow staff. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And just how much of a team, like how symbolically there's like we how well we work together. Just with this whole fight was
also
amazing.
Tim was Robin again, like not even Red Robin.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Are all the fans like,
yeah, they were.
I feel like we're getting back to the classic era. I do want to hold out on this particular image. I think.
I mean, I mean, it's interesting because like I don't know if either Steph or Cass have been referred to as Batgirl again, because Cassandra's been in her Batgirl costume.
Yeah.
And there's been kind of this sort of like not so subtle pushing for a Batgirl's parole book.
It better not be subtle.
Well, I wrote in my review that there's this endless Dick and Bab shipping, right?
Yes.
And I mean, even the Joker feels more traditional to me, which I like, because like when he's not written to be over the top, I do like the Joker when he's kind of he's deadly and he's dangerous, but he's also like funny. Like in the latest issue of Joker, Jim Gordon's on the hunt for him. He's kind of talking around like Brazil or someplace. He's asking around. He goes back to his apartment, and Joker on accident just opens the door. He's like, "Oh, Jimbo, how are you doing?" And like that made me laugh. And it's like it's not trying as hard to be scary or whatever kind of storytelling. It feels more like, and a lot of us old comics fans, we've been around too long, but like it does feel more of what I'm familiar with. And especially after reading Bruce Wayne Murderer, it feels like it's of that era. Not as dark as that story, but like the familial characters, it feels familiar in this issue.
It does. It feels like it's back to basics, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but just like back to the classic feel where everything was like, this is really fun and good, and sometimes it can be heavy, but it's just like worthwhile stuff. So I hope maybe they realized how broken everything was, and so now they're like, let's get back to it the way it is.
I don't know how old Tom Taylor is, but James Tynion is around our age, and I know that he is a fan of the 90s stuff. But Tom Taylor, with Nightwing, it's evident that that's the thing. And he wrote, like, Deceased, like that, like kind of that zombie story. I actually read that because Cassandra was in it, and it was really good. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of zombie stories, but, like, I did like it from a character perspective. And Shiva was in it as well. And so I feel that, like, whatever story he's doing, he has a real heartfelt take on the characters.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to more. And Damian was killed in the first issue, so who knows if he's even going to continue.
He'll get better.
It's like Mortal Kombat. So we've gone through the potatoes, and now it's the meat. We're going to be talking about Bruce Jerk Murderer, which published as Bruce Wayne Murderer. And Donovan is reading and speaking from his 2006 version of the trade paperback, and I will be speaking from the 2014 version. So 2006 for Don, 2014 for me. We talked before the show that Don's collects only relevant information within each of the issues, whereas my trade paperback, if it's talking about Robin 99, it's going to have the entire Robin 99, even if parts of it are not relevant to Bruce Jerk Murderer. So this storyline was originally published in 7 different comic book series in March and April 2002. The story was written by Greg Rucka, Kelly Puckett, Chuck Dixon, Devin Grayson, and Ed Brubaker, and the illustrations are done by Rick Burchett, Scott McDaniel, Damian Scott, Trevor McCarthy, Roger Robinson, as was mentioned before, Rick Leonardi, Pete Woods, and Steve Leiber. In this story, this is a brief synopsis. What I'm going to do is talk just this brief synopsis. I'll say what these issues were called and go through, and then Don is just going to give publisher blurbs for each, and then we're going to take a break, whatever that means, because we've been taking dozens of them already, it feels like. So in this story, Bruce Wayne is found with the dead body of Vesper Fairchild in his arms, and he is arrested for her murder. Looking to prove Bruce's innocence, Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl quickly... Huh?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It already begins. Quickly begin an investigation to discover the true killer. But as the mystery unfolds, evidence of Bruce's guilt mounts, and even his closest allies begin to question their mentor's innocence. Tired of portraying,
If only you see my face.
I wish I could. I wish, like, Huntress had appeared just out of nowhere in one of the panels and like said, "I told you so," or something. That would have been amazing. Tired of portraying himself as someone he is not, and further embracing the freedom of his masked identity, Bruce decides to lay his millionaire playboy, he was just a millionaire back then, playboy alter ego to rest and live life only as the Batman, and immediately kill somebody. But we'll get to that. So there are 14 parts to this. Only 12 parts are actually called parts, but then there's certainly the prologue and then like the climax of everything, which is Batman 600. So just going through these quickly. Batman, the 10-cent adventure #1 was called The Fool's Errand. Detective Comics 766 is part 1, Procedure. Batgirl #24, part 2, Batgirl. Nightwing #65, Bust Out. Batman Gotham Knights #25, No Exit. Birds of Prey 39, The Gun. Robin 98, The Thin Line, and that was part 6. Batman 599, From the Inside Out. Detective Comics 767, Timeless. Nightwing 66, part 9, The Unusual Suspects. Batman Gotham Knights 26, Innocent Until. And Robin 99, Where the Road Ends, and Birds of Prey 40, which is part 12, Switchback. And then the finale of this is Batman 600.
Batman 600.
Yes, the scene of the crime. So do you want to just like briefly say, I guess, relevant information or publisher blurbs if you have them for each of those 14 issues?
Sure. Yeah, I got the blurbs. I found the one on DC for the Tintin Adventure. The kickoff to the 12-part Bruce Wayne murderer storyline is a one-shot you can't afford to miss. When Batman responds to a series of crimes, little does he know that a crime is also occurring in one place in the world he considers safe, his home. And that is essentially the story where Batman discovers the body of Vesper Fairchild just as the police come in and he is set up for her murder. We jump into Detective Comics 766. Immediately following the shocking events of Batman the Tintin Adventure, we learn that Bruce Wayne is wanted for murder. How is this possible? And how is Batman going to get his alter ego out of this one? Jump into Batgirl 24. Oracle dispatches Batgirl to Wayne Manor to investigate an unthinkable crime. Can Cassandra uncover enough proof to clear Bruce Wayne's name? You'll believe what the young hero discovers. Nightwing 65. As Nightwing tends to the unbelievable events transpiring in Gotham City in the life of Bruce Wayne, a place called Lockhaven is headed for a fiery bust-out, which we won't talk about. Batman Gotham Knights number 25. As the evidence against Bruce Wayne piles higher and higher, Bruce's friends and allies rally to save him, but his strange behavior may make it impossible for Batman's allies to help out. Birds of Prey number 39. Oracle is feverishly trying to get information on the predicament of Bruce Wayne, and she's about to get some incredible lengths to get it. Meanwhile, Black Canary has to break into the apartment of a prominent Gotham citizen, especially for your child. Robin number 98 leads to a parting of the ways for Tim Drake and Alfred as Tim is forced to reevaluate his anger towards Bruce Wayne. Meanwhile, Spoiler Release receives some horrific news and has a less than chance encounter with a certain star of the Birds of Prey. Batman 599. Oh, yeah. Bruce Wayne is behind bars, but getting out of jail while keeping his identity intact remains difficult. Meanwhile, the evidence against him continues to mount, and his situation keeps looking worse and worse and worse. Detective Comics number 767. Will Sacha Bordeaux sell Bruce Wayne out and claim he committed the murder he's being charged with? If it means her freedom from the hellacious jail she's found herself in, the answer may not be what you think. Nightwing 66. Dick and Barbara dig deeper into the circumstances surrounding Bruce Wayne's arrest, and the duo find themselves conflicted over a serious question about the innocence of their fearless leader. Gotham Knights 26. As Bruce languishes in prison on a brutal murder charge, his closest allies try to come to terms with the horrific reality of the situation. But not everyone who loves him thinks he's completely innocent. Robin number 99, with a great cover by Todd Knock. This starts with Birds of Prey. Bruce Wayne stands accused of murder, but Robin's got to focus on rescuing a close friend. Plus, Alfred goes undercover to investigate a suspect in Bruce's case. Birds of Prey number 40. Bruce Wayne murder concludes in part 12 as Oracle and Robin continue investigating the murder case, and Bruce Wayne makes a devastating decision. Continued in Batman 600 as the multi-part of Bruce Wayne Fugitive crossover ignites. Batman 600. Bruce Wayne Fugitive kicks off in this oversized issue. Bruce Wayne is suspected of murder and is confronted by his allies in the Batcave, resulting in Batman and Nightwing going toe-to-toe in an amazing display of combat between teacher and student that ends with, get ready, Ace Jockey betrayal! And that's all the synopsis for the issues.
Oh, thank you so much. And with that, friends, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we will be reviewing and chatting about. I've got questions, I think, for all the issues, actually. We will be chatting some Bruce Jerk Murderer. But first, it is Zaius' Radio Hour featuring Troubles Coming by Royal Blood. We are back, and now we're in the main event, which is, of course, talking about Bruce Wayne, murderer? Question mark?
Yeah, there is.
Okay. So I would love to, I do have a question, but I think we'll just go issue by issue. I've got some questions, and then if there are any points you want to break up and or talk about and things like that. So, and then we'll do overall. I've got some overall questions and talk about how this rates with other Batman tales, and of course, give a rating. So first of all, I wondered what the Vesper Fairchild history is. Would you be able to? I feel like I probably sat through some sort of lecture by our mutual friend, Joshua Lappin Bertoni, about this. Like, I think he knows all about her, I feel like. But I just wondered, for the folks at home, as well as me, how much do you know about Vesper? Would you be able to give us like a hot take on who she is and why she would be important to the Batman mythos?
That's a good question because of the story, she's kind of categorized in like one of Bruce Wayne's great tragic loves. I honestly am not very familiar with her. She had been around since I know she was around during Cataclysm. She goes that far back, but the issues where she and Bruce were dating, like, I believe they took place kind of during like the Kelly Jones era of Batman, the Doug Moench Kelly Jones era. I haven't read a lot of those because those are kind of in between major storylines. And I was kind of reading Robin and Nightwing around the time. And I'm not really going back and read those issues of Batman. Like, when this story first came out, I really wasn't aware of her at all. I grew aware of her over time, but I couldn't tell you the exact nature of their relationship, how she was characterized, what have you. I'm mainly familiar with her through this story, where she's basically Jean DeWolf, right? It opens with her death. Like, she is genuinely a Bruce Wayne girlfriend. Like, she's been around for a few years. I've not read that it was majorly serious, but what I do know what's happened is that like Bruce was having major feelings for her, but he knew that would only complicate both of their lives. So he like invited her over to the house while he had like girls over, so she could Betty Brant her way out the door. Oh. And he's like, but as his first chapter opens up, well, it's a Marvel method of like, I must have her hate me, so I won't break her heart later on. And he's still kind of like reeling from that choice of ending the relationship that way. But honestly, like I'd be lying if I said, oh, she's this, because I just have not read those issues. I mean, if Bertoni were here, he would lecture you, but I didn't do that homework, so I'm at a loss.
Okay, I didn't ask you to do that. That's fine. I will say that the majority of insight I have into her character is through Sasha's lens in this particular story. Right. And that's actually a question, because Sasha clearly has feelings for Bruce, she's not the most reliable of narrators. And so her perspective might be skewed. And so I just wonder how much can we believe her perspective or her opinion of of Vesper, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start with, and I like these. That's exactly what look at his ugly mug. Yeah, you jerk.
He looks like Ben Affleck, unshaven, drunk, hair messed up.
Poor guy. Okay. Oh, yes. I guess I start with 766. We can at least show the dead body. There it is. I mean, he clearly cares about her he's like cradling her in his arms. Look at that. Okay. Right. But Detective 766, I think, is really where my first questions, when she actually admits, Sasha, that she loves Bruce Wayne. Trying to find out do you have any reactions of that as someone reading it at the time or even rereading it now?
Well, first, can I, before I answer that, can I ask you how familiar are you with Sasha Bordeaux?
I am unfamiliar with her only in my coverage. I think I just encountered her, if not the last episode, the episode before, when I've been doing quickies, and that she has popped up. And so I saw, this bodyguard. And then it connected to in a random, which I'll bring up again, Birds of Prey issue that Professor Cheapskate made me read with him on his quarter bin. podcast. But then I found out, I kind of researched her history a bit and found out, that she realized that she's this bodyguard. She finds out Bruce's secret. And there's like this really creepy image. I think I shared it on Instagram of him looking down over a balcony onto her. And it's like really creepy and terrible. But yeah, so that's basically just that she was a bodyguard for Bruce Wayne and she's not an idiot. So she realized that Bruce Wayne and Batman are one and the same.
Yes. Yeah.
You want to add to that?
Again, when I was reading this at the time, when I was a kid, that was very, very modern. That like, he has this bodyguard. She learns who he was. He's like, okay, well, if you're going to stick with me, you need to train because I'm Batman. She was never given a code name, but it felt very new. Like, it's kind of like, who is she? And, what's her MO? And when I remember when she's like, I'm in love with him, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I mean, he's Batman. What's not to love?
Yeah.
There's some sort of like, comic book inevitability to that. Mm-hmm. But like he does definitely make. There's a line later on in the Spotlight issue where she's in prison that makes for great drama. Where it's like yes, no, yes, no.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was shocked. I guess just like wow, she really did. She fell for it. It's like Whitney Houston and
she fell for it.
Yeah, I can't remember Kevin Costner in The Bodyguard. It was just inevitable. So it happened.
Yes.
But just the way she said, I wish I could find the page. I put page numbers for everything else. I thought it was before this. I think it is here, isn't it? I thought it was because she was having a conversation and I thought it was, but she was having a conversation and like she would have silent answers to herself in between the other answers. And she's like, I'm in love with him. And I thought, oh, wow, that's shocking. Okay.
That's
is it a later one?
Detective Comics, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in the middle of the story.
Well, I'll move on then. Just to say that, wow, that's, I found like, oh, wow, that's shocking. And then as we continue on with her story in particular, and that prison scene or prison issue, really, I think that it increases the drama, certainly, of everything. Like he wasn't looking at her, he wasn't talking to her until it really counted. Mm-hmm. So one question I had here is Crispus Allen. He quickly condemns Wayne. I think he killed her, and I think maybe the bodyguard was in on it with him. Why do you think he is so quick to basically, Wayne did it, of course. Like he doesn't even think about it. Do you think this is just part of his character? Is there history there that I'm kind of not as aware of, maybe between him and Bruce, that he would think that?
I think it's just honest, from his perspective. And I mean, this is met out far past like Got the Central, that like he has no clue that he's Batman.
Yeah.
But he's like seeing it's like Bruce Wayne, influential billionaire socialite. Like, he has power, he has women. There's the potential for jealous lovers and such. He doesn't see that as all that unlikely that there would be quick animosity between partners or what have you. And I think that like, I think I don't think he's jumping at straws exactly. I mean, he's wrong, but it's not if I heard that, if I was in the same car, if I didn't know that Bruce was Batman, I'd be like, it could be. I think it's just, it's an honest presumption after 20 minutes of, being called in the case, right? Like, he has an opinion some way.
That's true. And I feel like that perhaps one of the themes of this whole story is about, did he do it? Did he not do it? And then with everyone surrounding him, all of the characters, the people that are close to him or perhaps on the periphery, what do they think about him? And so I think we're just starting off with, we've got this cop here that doesn't have as much of a close relationship to him, would be aware of Bruce Wayne just because of his public identity, of course. And he's just made this snap judgment that, he totally did it. And then I think we go from there. That's Renee, right? Renee, certainly.
Yes, yeah.
She's not sure. I think she needs more evidence on that, certainly. But she thinks it out. She does, a thought experiment with him and considers that. But I just thought it was really interesting. Like, man, the first person who's asked that question is basically like, yeah, he did it. And then my final question, then, if you have anything on this one, well, it's more of a point, but this was a huge moment for me. Sorry, I'm doing this again. I've got to be better about it. But it's Alfred. It's basically the end of this issue. Alfred returning. He's putting on his jacket, and he's been with Tim at Brentwood for, I'd say, a significant amount of time. I don't know how much time
since Officer Down.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I would say that's a lot, that he walked out. He had enough of Bruce's childishness. But now he realizes that Bruce really, really needs him. Do you feel like this is, I don't know, a comic booky way to, like, the plot demanded it, which I know you don't like those sorts of things. Does the plot demand that he return to him? Or do you think that this particular situation really warrants him returning to Bruce?
I mean, the crux of this story is Batman's character and his identity, or really his character. And it gets hotter and hotter as the story goes on, but you don't do this story without everybody that's close to him. And this is one of those things where, like, you know, Alfred and Dick particularly, you really see the heart of who those characters are. And it's an idiot would think not to bring Alfred in this, no matter where he was. And, you know, because he left Nightfall, then he kind of came back in a Nightwing parter or whatever. I think this is much more meaningful because he left because of Bruce's behavior, and he's coming back because that behavior, which he despised, got him in real trouble one way or another. And because it's not like it's not like he's like questioned for murder. He's past tense arrested. Yeah. So he's like, okay, whatever's going on, if Batman had that happen to him, he needs me. And that's awesome.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this scene again because it pops up in Robin, so we get a different perspective on that. But yeah, yes. I thought, like, wow, I feel like just in this page, you really get a sense of, oh boy, this is pretty big right here. I think he leaves a note. Yeah. At the bottom left, it says, Tim, he needs me, Alfred. So
oh yeah, it is retcon and Dixon's issue. What did you think of the initial interrogation scene between Sasha and Renee?
Oh golly, this
yeah,
one
that
here.
one.
Yeah, that's pretty. And I think it's interesting because I'm surprised that she gets so emotional, just because given what I've seen of her, I don't think that she would break down. I mean, that's got to be really intense.
Oh, Sasha?
I'm surprised that Sasha broke down, that is breaking down and crying. And so I guess that Renee is just that intense. And also she's listening to this tape, but I think it's the prison issue again, that she actually talks about this particular scene, like, because she compares it to, or connects it to the fact that, you know, she has these opinions about Vesper and they're all negative, and then she heard that tape. So I think it is, this tape is really hard to listen to. And I would like to note that Bruce's name is never mentioned in this tape. So I feel like this is almost circumstantial, but you know, they're in the everything. But no, she really takes it. I just feel, I don't know. Part of me is like, I totally get it. She's listening to that tape. Renee's in her face and yelling like, this is total, tactics. Of course she would cry. But another part of me, just for my limited experience of Sasha, thinks that I feel like maybe she'd be stronger and be able to almost like compartmentalize and be, I don't know, stone face. What do you think about this scene?
I think just the circumstances of it, because it's she's listening to somebody die, which we don't have any information whether that she's gone through that before.
Yeah,
and it's the stress of, I know Bruce was set up, and I can't. It's quite a pickle. Like, he's Batman, I can't betray him that way. And I love him, but it's also like this horrible murder in his own home. It's just the whole world's crashing down on her. I think it's perfectly human that I mean, she's not like bawling, but just tears stream down her face, like before she even knows it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to me feels like fiercely human.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with her. And that's a huge line at the end with, Renee saying, "You protect people, you're a damn bodyguard. Good thing Vesper didn't need any protection, huh?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it is really hard knowing that you're the alibi, and then it gets a bit more complicated later on, but we'll get to that. So you're the alibi and you can't say anything, which I think speaks to her strength of character, certainly.
And then the next page, like there's a brief moment where Bruce is like, almost whatever he's going to say is going to be honest.
Yeah.
And then he snaps like, "I want my lawyer."
Yeah.
This story is so good.
Okay, so then we get to your girl here.
Yes.
Okay, I do like this scene. She's like, "This is foolishness. We need to put a stop to this," which you and I have spoken of. Anyways, and it's funny because I didn't think she was at all talking to Batman, but I love that she's like psyching herself up to talk to Batman. And then nice. The face at the bottom is dubious about it. Yeah. So I felt like this is great. I think that it totally makes sense that Oracle would have heard the 911 call, but then it begs the question, wouldn't Batman have also heard that call?
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah. She's like saying, Batman. And she's like, okay, Nightwing, my canary. Well, that's going to blow his identity. I always remember the part where she like laments, I'm sending a 15-year-old and tries to get Robin. Then it takes a while for her to remember Cassandra, which she was just thinking about her, but whatever.
You're offended, I can tell. Yes.
Not really. I'm just like, that's interesting.
Yeah. I did already mention that Bruce is never named in the call. So here's a big question. And it comes back around, so we can talk about it again once it's revealed. But why doesn't Batgirl know that Bruce and Batman are the same? And is it surprising that Oracle hasn't told her or Batman himself? So any thoughts, insight on this?
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't remember any story where they're like, well, she can't know who I am because, I mean, it's possible that because she's been shown to be so frivolous with her own identity, she might not fully understand the need for him. Especially because, like again, her perception of this whole crime fighting thing is different. So it just seems like it was revealed through this story that like it was not even like an accident. It was like somewhat of an intention that, for the time being, she doesn't know who Batman is. Because I love the last 2 pages. I mean, I think it's one of those things. So it wasn't a concern for the story immediately, but as a byproduct of this whole thing. In the meantime, Cassandra Cain figures out. It's not that she's told. She figures out that Bruce is Batman in a way which I think is very cool. Like she, looks into his soul and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do you think she would have realized it had she seen maybe any news pieces on Bruce and connected especially at the time that she had heightened body language reading?
I mean, it's possible. I don't think that we've ever seen her interact with Bruce Wayne at this point. I mean, later she I know specifically in Gotham Knights, later on in that run, she does. Like she's, hanging around Wayne Manor and stuff, but I don't believe we've seen her and Bruce together. We've seen Oracle and Bruce together, or at least converse, but not Cassandra. Cassandra's, because Oracle, like Barbara, Barbara's one of the first people she met, but otherwise she's not seen Dick Grayson or Tim Drake. Even in No Man's Land, they're all in their costumes and stuff.
Yeah. So, and I think we'll get to Dinah as well. That, I mean, it does beg the question. I mean, there's sort of common sense that should come into play a lot. Like why is Oracle so concerned about Bruce Wayne's, murder rap here? And why are we doing this legwork when we could be out in Malaysia or something? But yeah, no, it was just
that's a retcon because I know for a fact that Black Canary used to know who Batman was.
Okay. And now she no longer does. But no, this was just really interesting that, well, I've been reading it from the beginning, as you're aware, because you've been with me every step of the way practically. But I just feel like of all the people, she should know, like she would be allowed to know. And you do mention the fact that she is a bit carefree with her own identity, though he had a talking to her about that and they had to mop up that mess. But it's not like she would be free and going around willy-nilly telling other people his identity because of how much, she respects, admires, and loves him. So I'm just surprised that did not happen. Or Oracle on the down low say, hey, Cass, just so you know, because Cass knows Tim.
No, in No Man's Land, I know she escorted him across the lines. Was he Robin or because Dixon wrote that issue? I know he doesn't care.
And they've only interacted. I mean, the last time that they had their little team up, it was just as Robin. So maybe that's sketchy. I mean, she should know. Spoiler and Steph are the same. She knows that Barbara was Batgirl. Dinah, that's pretty easy. Dick, what do you think? Dick and Nightwing?
I mean, she will know, obviously, but I don't think she's interacted with him solo. Yeah, honestly, there is a logic to why she would know his identity, but I would have liked to know because again, we don't see this on panel. What was the trajectory for her bringing her into their identity? Because Batman and Oracle are really investing in her. It makes no sense for them to be so heavy a part of their lives, but you can't know who Batman is. I mean, I can't see Batman that lasting too long.
Yeah.
What with this whole father-daughter thing going on, but he clearly didn't think that she was ready at the time.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I guess it might go to his whole persona. Like he wants to teach her as Batman, not as Bruce Wayne. So his other identity doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, just my question. Do you have any questions or thoughts on 24? Oh, sorry.
I liked how she was utilizing this because this is a Batman crossover story, and I liked there's all these characters have their different specialties, but Cassandra, she can't sneak around without people finding her, especially in a crowded room.
Yeah,
I thought it was clever. I thought the reasoning was clever. I liked how Oracle said, "Listen, the house has an EM field blocking everything except for the police band. The owner is sneaky. Like she's keeping Bruce's identity, but like Wayne Manor's own defense setup makes it hard for them to help with the investigation. And Cassandra's hanging around there, she's hiding, and then just as a byproduct of her doing work for Oracle, you see how distressed Oracle is. But Cassandra's like, all right, you just told me I'm just doing this chore, this errand, and on her own, she's like, oh wait, this is Batman. That's just cool thing.
Yeah. She figures out. Yeah, it's a long story. The owner's sneaky. That was pretty fun. Yeah, there was one moment where she's like in the thick of the investigation, like pick something up that someone was it earlier? I thought it was in here.
She has a camera and like flashes
she
face.
like is able. It was crazy. I had to look at that a couple times. It kind of reminds me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the smoke test. And there it is, and the bells. Yeah. And you have to collect all the bells without them ringing. And of course, Raphael can do it. But yeah, it just kind of reminds me. Look at that. She's just able to grab it and push the button, and there you go. The Flash. I don't know what happened. Yeah, very cool. Okay, well then we'll move on to 65. Here's a pretty cool cover. No butt shot.
Yeah.
It's still an attractive man. Okay, so we are... Oh, yeah, I had an issue with... So here's some of this side stuff that doesn't necessarily match up or is relevant. He ends up bribing a shift guard in order to change his shift so that he can go to he can do a prisoner transfer and visit Bruce, which I did have a question about the Shank, I think it's called, because here I think he's visiting him in, I think it's called, or is it called Shrek? Shrek.
Shrek's a part of town. Yeah.
Okay, but it's not a prison.
Where's the line?
Always in Blackgate, or was he in like a holding area first, and then?
Well, right now Bruce is in holding. He will be transferred to Blackgate later in the story, but currently he's just in jail.
Mm-hmm. There he is. I have to work. Oh, here it is. I mean, we should just every time Batman's or Bruce Wayne is a jerk, we should take a drink. But seriously, there's nothing you can do after work that's out of my own. Oh my gosh, I know. We're trying to help you. Please. Oh, man alive. What? Well, I mean, do you want to say anything about this? Do you want to defend him?
No. I mean, I read this again when I was a kid, and it was I do remember this. His behavior was getting really, really cold for a while. Just like whenever he appeared, he'd just be like really standoffish in a way which I wasn't used to. I think people in letters page that kind of comments like, why is he? I mean, I understand he went through a lot, in terms of like the earthquake and before that the clench, before that Bane. But this seemed to be a this seemed like a very consistent. Like Batman's just like this all the time. But as we see, it's kind of been building, especially in the last few stories in terms of like what he did to Tim and Gordon getting shot. So like every time we see Bruce, except for like the initial story with Sasha, I think he feels like Batman in that. Like, he's just kind of like, saying, we're going on patrol, standing patrol. He's mournful when he's unable to save that one person. Like he's kind of like silent, but he's not unreasonable. But here, this is the first time somebody's interacted with him, and he just completely shuts down. And I love, of course, this is Chuck Dixon. I love how Dick interacts between the police and Bruce and himself, because he puts on this almost like Dick Grayson, like cheery persona.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's talking to the other cop. I love when the cop is like, how do you know a billionaire? And he's like, we used to hang together. Like, he doesn't even get into it. I just think that's kind of cool. He's like, I bet you had some crazy stories. You wouldn't believe half of them. I like the really casual nature of that. But when Dick is on his own, he almost breaks his hand punching the car because he's that frustrated with Bruce. And he's like, why is it always like this? And I'm just like, this is clearly Bruce's behavior is intentional. It's not just, oh, that's who it is. This is clearly meant to chafe with the Bat family. And I think it's just, it's appropriately dramatic and comfortable.
Absolutely. One of my questions actually is in regards to the adoption, because it's supposed to be public knowledge. So I guess I just wonder why other people like Oates don't know or haven't gone after him, or the media haven't gone after him. Is there just a delay? Is it actually not as public?
Well, I mean, I never talked about this with Josh before. Firstly, a lot of times when the adoption is mentioned here, it's because Bruce specifically recently adopted Dick Grayson as his son. He was adopted as a ward back in the day, but in terms of being owed and being part of the will and being owed like in terms of legalities of the Wayne estate, Dick Grayson is legally Bruce Wayne's son in this. I mean, it's an addition to the ward legality. Oh gosh, what was the question? What was the original question?
I guess why it should be public knowledge. I think even Dick says it's public knowledge. So why does Oates not know? Because he says, "Oh, how do you know, Bruce?" And then the media is not going after him. Later on, they'll go after Alfred.
Yeah. I talked to Josh about this. It's just and this probably a couple years ago. But do you know the name of Bill Gates' adopted children, if he has any? Do you know the name of Elon Musk's kid? It's one of those things where okay, yeah, they hang out with people famous, but how long does the sort of tangential character stay in the spotlight? And it's inconsistent, honestly. There have been plenty of stories where, going back to the Silver Age, where Dick Grayson was famous for being Bruce Wayne's ward, and then times where people are oh, I guess he's rich, or I don't know about him. It is inconsistent, but here it's just the idea of he's not a celebrity. Dick Grayson just kind of grew up and went away, whereas Bruce Wayne stays Bruce Wayne.
I do know the name of Elon Musk's sister.
You got one on me then.
No, you know why? Because she's the head of Passion Flicks.
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
Oscar Musk. Yeah, that's the only reason why. This scene I wanted to pull up, of course, because Barbara's in there. And by the way, my chief hairstyle and correspondent, Alan, her hair is all over the place and all of these issues. This is probably one I like the most. There's a mullet and a couple of them. But anyways, it's really interesting just how informal he's speaking and nothing has changed. And actually in recent memory, they basically were on a break almost, because he didn't want to deal with anyone because he killed the Joker and she was trying and he was just ignoring her. So I suppose I can maybe explain it away with we're in dire circumstances, that's I'm not even going to be thinking about these personal issues, but it's just it's ridiculous bad. I mean, there's no segue. He just goes on in and they communicate well and there's no issues. So I almost wanted there to be a moment. It didn't need to be super distracting, but just a moment to address that, hey, I've been having a tough time. Thank you for trying to be there. But there's not that. Exactly. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
That's a very good point. I wasn't aware of that. Well, I mean, it's been a while since I thought about that. That's a good observation.
And it's only because I've done Joker Last Laugh and I've been doing all the Nightwing stuff. So it's been rough. He hit rock bottom, but now he is. Any other thoughts or questions or topics you want to discuss on Nightwing?
I mean, I don't love Trevor McCarthy's artwork, and he comes back. He actually did a lot of that Raya stuff in New 52. But in here, Dick looks like Aladdin. In a way, which I mean, I like Aladdin, but in a way which I don't think looks good in his style.
There it is, his Agrabah's on fire.
Arabian. I do love Aladdin, but no, that's all my notes for that.
Okay, so then we move.
Look at that gorgeous cover.
I know, and you can tell right away that it's Boland, and look at his struggle, the struggle marks that you've got. So this has got.
Did you skip Robin? It's in my trade. It's only this. Oh, okay. Because in my trade, it's the only scene where Alfred leaves, and then it gets in the Gotham Mask. Whatever. I don't. Whatever.
Okay. So I guess we'll do this and then we'll come back to Robin. But yeah, I will say, because you're bringing up Robin, that there are some continuity discrepancies with some of these issues. It feels like it mostly happens in Robin, actually. So we can talk about that when they happen, but not to be nerd or really negative, but just okay, this maybe doesn't make sense that he just got shot on a skateboard, but he's over here in Gotham. Okay, so there was something I put in exclamation points. Attempted rape attempted rape. I don't remember where it was. Was it at his arraignment here? There it is. Charges of murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted rape. So that was something that I didn't even think about. I don't know. Do you read the phone call differently after, or the transcript of the phone call differently after seeing that is one of the charges?
Not really, because I know how this ends. But
okay.
I imagine that's taken from the videotape, and because they were exes, they kind of that was a charge that the prosecution just went for. Because it's not. I mean, as Montoya says, and as we know, it's not in the bed review, so it's not like there's like evidence of that. And I don't know if they've commented on any torn clothes or what have you. But I think it's just kind of something that the prosecution went for based on the audio.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would have said about the torn clothes. That would have been my first indication, or any sort of skin under her nails, but that would have gone right away. Look at that. He doesn't even talk. Doesn't even say a word.
And yet, what awesome images of like Bruce Wayne. Like, this is one of those where he persona-wise is Batman, but he's not wearing his costume.
Yeah.
And Roger Robertson captures that repeatedly throughout this run. I met him at Comic-Con. He's pretty cool. But I thought that like these are some definitive Bruce Wayne images in my, because his eyes are constantly shadowed out. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. So let's talk about this. First of all, you don't need to call him sir, ma'am.
I knew you were going to do that.
Of course. I hate when she calls him boss. Is this Devin Grayson?
That's in the next page.
It's totally Devin Grayson.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and I don't know why she does that. I totally disagree with every time that it happens. But yeah, look, I'd like to represent you during that. You're not an attorney. Well, actually, I just love that for funsies. She has a law degree. I had some spare time, so I took a correspondence course in law. Turned out I knew most of it already, so I took the bar for the hell of it, got my JD and everything. This is a Master of Laws from Harvard. Yeah, I took an extension. I mean, of course you did, Barbara. And I love her facial expression on the bottom of that. If it's worth doing, you better do it right. Thoughts on this? She gets her law degree for funsies, basically. And her interaction with Bruce in this scene.
I've always felt very weird about that.
Because that she got it for
as
funsies?
you know, I living in the house of lawyers, like that's no joke.
That's true.
You know, my brother studied the bar. Like we have a very good family friend who had to take the bar 3 times before he passed. Like I know people who have like considered suicide because it's just so difficult to pass. So it's one of those comic book things where a normal person would buckle under the pressure, but this character could do it easily. And so it's like, on the one hand, that's really awesome. And if anybody can do it, it's Barbara Gordon. On the other hand, I'm like, that's a little disrespectful. But it's a comic book, so I'm not gonna let it bother me.
Yeah, I'm not bothered, but also I don't have that personal experience. And Babs is my girl, and I totally believe that she would do this for funsies. He's like, I'm bored. Nothing's coming across the crime wave. Let's see what I can do today. So
I remember reading that for the first time, and I was like, what?
But yeah, this interaction, golly, how painful, certainly, and just how much it's always, man, it is really honestly always Barbara who is reaching out, who's got to be the shoulder for people. This happened in Officer Down. It's her own father who was shot, and she's the one that's comforting Renee Montoya and really reaching out there and trying to help Bruce. And here's, I feel like a jerk again, just because like he's not accepting that help and he thanks her. I guess we can accept that thank you there, but I'll be requiring your energies elsewhere. And then of course she says the B word, which I don't appreciate, boss. But yeah, no, it's just like a bummer. Like she's done all this hard work. She clearly cares for him, is reaching out to him, and he's just like pushing her away. So a lot of this story is hard to read because of how Bruce is acting and pushing people away that really love him.
Well, as you were reading this, were you surprised, or you were like, that's right, he's a jerk, I'm not surprised?
It's the second one, of course, with my high-pitched voice. I'm not surprised. No, to a certain extent, because he has his moments of jerkishness, but like, he's not always like that. But this entire story is like him being a jerk, and it's like, it's too much, Bruce. Turn it off. So that was surprising. But yes, I do feel vindicated that I was calling him this for years. And you're there sitting there next to me, defending him, saying my hypocrisy makes you sick, all of this stuff. And here we are.
Wait. I don't. When have I defended him tonight?
Oh, tonight. Not tonight, but I'm thinking about No Man's Land, where you said you're hypocritical and judgmental, and frankly, it annoys me.
Oh, I hope you forgot about that.
Of course I didn't forget about it. You're a hard man, Donovan. Okay. Oh, man. Yeah, so I asked a question. Is Bruce only thinking about himself when asking people not to help him? What about Sasha?
I mean, I think at this point, he's really... I mean, this gets elaborated on before too long, but at this point, it's a combination of a few things. You know, it's like, I can do this by myself, he thinks, or he believes, or he wants to believe. You will better utilize doing something else, and also your care for me may not be what this situation needs. I think a lot of things can be read into it. Like, he's not... I mean, what he's not doing is, you incompetent fools, don't mess with me, I got this. It's not that. It's kind of him and his psyche kind of, you know, it's like the fall of the house of Usher, basically, in his brain. And so whenever the Bat family reach out to him, he's never going to respond well. I think the thank you was about as best as it gets in this trade.
And there we have a nice prison scene there as we zoom out. Okay. Any other thoughts on Gotham Knights 25?
Well, just as an anecdote, Alfred comes back and Dick meets him at the taxi, which is a great. I love their relationship in the story. I like the scene that Devin Grayson puts in here of the people on the Gotham Street reacting to the murder charge. Like, some people will say, that makes sense. And other people are like, no, wait, man, Bruce Wayne's actually kind of cool. I think that's cool. They kind of go RoboCop that way.
And isn't that the Rat King?
I think there's just normal people.
Well, that one guy looks like that. I don't know.
The woman?
Is that a woman?
Yeah, she's an older woman. Now, listen here. The Wayne family has been in Gotham longer than your news show.
Well, it looks like could be the Rat King. I don't know if the Rat King is only Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle continuity. But it looks like she's got some sort of rodent in her hands.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No. It's just they point. You know, the defense tries for it. The judge is like, no bail, and Bruce and Sasha's cases are kind of like she has a separate defense. And also Alfred and Dick realize that neither of them know what happened. Alfred's like, so what happened? And Dick's like, I have no idea. And it's like, all right, stubborn. All right, we'll do this on ourselves.
Here we are once again. It's like, it's happening again. Okay, so now we're moving on to Birds of Prey 39. So I will be talking a bit about some of the outside stuff just because it's a Birds of Prey tale. But Phil Noto is amazing. I love his covers. This, I think, is gorgeous. Any thoughts on the cover?
I almost forgot that Black Canary had that costume still by this point. Oh, which is it's a decent costume. But yeah, I remember the covers in the corner. And I think they may have done this actually for Bruce Wayne Fugitive. Maybe they don't do this Bruce Wayne Murder, but they had like puzzle pieces that would kind of. That's right. It was Fugitive because they had puzzle pieces. And I remember there was a lot of Phil Noto covers for Birds of Prey around this time, where it's kind of like Saul Bass, like film, like spy fiction almost, in the way they're kind of assembled. Oh yeah, and shout out to Carolyn Coca. There's Barbara Head in this.
It is a floating Barbara Head. Hashtag Carolyn knows.
Is that Calabac on stage?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll talk about that particular segment.
I had no idea.
How he's in there. Yeah. Okay. So just to say about that beauty there. Yeah. So in the beginning, there is this. Well, actually, before I even start there, I do want to say that I should have looked up what episode, but I was on the Quarter Bin podcast with Professor Allen. And if you are unaware of what that is, basically he goes into the Quarter Bin and picks out issues. And then I think he probably always has guests. I was a guest for this. I was also on for other things. I remember being on for like a Cloak and Dagger, and I can't remember another one. They're totally out of context. And then at the end, you have to say whether it's worth a quarter or not, what you paid for. And I had been reading Birds of Prey. I feel like I got up to this point, but I had not yet gotten there in my reread. And so this was just like, I have, this is weird context. I remember Sasha popping up. And so when I was reading her in real time recently, I thought, oh my gosh, it's that woman that was in that Birds of Prey. So anyways, I've got history of this because of my chief hairstyle correspondent. So yeah, in the beginning, we've got Blue Beetle, who's been hanging around a lot. Oh, it's a butt. He is fighting Calabac here, but you find out that it's actually a training program. And then this actually leads to, because he's having some troubles there, can't get his breath. Oh, and by the way, look at her hair. It's not very attractive here. I don't know what's happening. We actually find out that he has a heart issue, which I feel a bit suspicious about, that they're saying that it's a heart issue, but it's not. And there's another manner. But anyways, just know that Blue Beetle.
Listen to her. Why are men so damn stupid? You need a brain check, lame brain, or check up lame brain.
Oh, okay. So he leaves. She shoves him out of the door. Oh, I forgot that there's something there. Okay, so here's Dinah, and she needs Dinah to go off and basically do some research. But it's interesting because Dinah says, but what's Bruce Wayne to you? You don't seem like his type, which blah. And then Babs says, it's not like that, Dinah. And then she says, I meant you're too brainy for a guy like Wayne. Thanks for so much. But we get to the point where maybe not so much this one, but later on when Dinah is appearing, that I feel like shouldn't Dinah put 2 and 2 together, that there's a reason you're researching Bruce Wayne, and it might be because he's a more important person in the group proper? Or do you think it makes sense that she's unaware and she's just going along with it?
It's one of those things. I just find it weird that she doesn't know who he is. Like, not only what did she do beforehand, but like, it's a Denny O'Neil thing. He's not around anymore, but it's a vestige of the Denny O'Neil era that like the Bat family had to be so closed off. Like somewhere along the line, Barbara knew who Robin is by this point. I don't remember how that happened, but like, I mean, at least Barbara is like, why would Barbara just tell people who Bruce Wayne is? I mean, I don't think Barbara would ever do that. So, it's odd that like Canary didn't know ahead of time, but if she's not going to know, Barbara's not going to tell her. And that's kind of like what that first page in the Clock Tower says to me.
Yeah. And I will say that she just drops, Barbara just drops it nonchalantly, Tim, when she's talking to Robin, and Robin is all taken aback, and he's with Alfred at the time. And he's like, how long did she know? And Alfred said, knowing Barbara for a long time. So it was just like, it wasn't really much of a aha moment. It was just like, oh yeah, I've known for a while, and here's a little drop, kind of like a Jim and Babs in Joker #3. I love this scene. So I was reading it out of context the first time, but now that we have this, just these two going against each other, and they're both on the same side. One of them knows everything about Bruce and was there with Bruce, so is the alibi, but doesn't know that Barbara knows, so she's being tight-lipped. And Barbara knows everything about Bruce, was trying to figure out more, and so really needs Sasha's help, and it's just not going over well. I mean, I wish they would have had icicle bubbles. I think that's look. I mean, look at this. If there's something between, it's not like that. Then what is it like? There's nothing. Then that's all. And then when they leave, that's when she rolls out, and Barbara calls her an idiot, and then Sasha says witch. And so I just think, if these two women could be on each other's side, it'd be great. But it's just like they both know the same secret but can't share. So I like that scene. So I would like you to comment on the scene. And then my question actually is, why wouldn't Bruce alert the team that Sasha has actually figured out his secret? Or how did, the others not figure out that Sasha knew the secret? If I would think that they would have been spotted together on patrol.
Because Bruce has been acting weird. And this has not been going on forever. This has been going on like very recently. I bet she's only been trained. She's only been around for like a month or two. Barbara has her Birds of Prey thing. Dick is in Bloodhaven. Tim is all the way out in Brentwood. Cassandra Cain, Cassandra Cain, he kind of deals with her with the distance that he does. So he was able to like kind of train somebody else and then not know about it because she's only been around for so little. But like they remember that time where like Barbara was like, of course I know that like Cassandra's running around in a mask, without her Batgirl costume. I know that's her obviously, but like, apparently nobody knew that there's this costume blonde woman running around with Batman.
Yeah,
like in a costume not too dissimilar from Spoiler.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, or Mockingbird, kind of the old school Mockingbird from Marvel. Did you? I didn't hear you. If you answered just what you thought about this interaction between the two of them.
I kind of forgot about it until I reread it. Then I was just like, oh yeah, that's right. Barbara doesn't know who she is, and she definitely doesn't know who Oracle is. And this is just like, gosh, you kind of you want them to because I feel awful for Sasha throughout this entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like help is right in front of her. If Oracle knew Sasha's deal, she could at least help her. But it's actually really, really tragic, especially what happens to Sasha later on. It's just like, darn it, you're so close and you're so far.
Yeah. I noticed that Barbara's wearing pearls, which always makes me nervous now when I see someone wearing pearls, given Martha. But there was...
given Martha. Is it too soon?
Oh, about Martha?
Yeah.
Maybe it always is soon. When Spoiler pops in, which interaction between Spoiler and Dinah, not only in this, but later on is pretty fun. She knows she's Stephanie, which is great. There was something. Oh, yeah. On this particular page, let's see. Spoiler asks, could I hang out with you a while? And Dinah says, why not? I remember when someone else applied for a student vigilante license. Remember Oracle? She's like, yeah, I remember. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. I do love that. And I love the sort of costume flair on Dinah, that it's not just her outfit, but she went from her sort of civvies and just slipped on her hero attire and then also kept part of her civvies with her. Yeah. And I guess the last thing was just putting two and two together, but I've already mentioned that a couple times. Any other thoughts on, that's the end, on Birds of Prey 39?
I mean, reading these scant issues of Birds of Prey makes me want to read the series because it's very solidly written. I would only read Birds of Prey in instances like this, which is part of a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I dig it because it's a superhero story, but I like the detective angle. I like seeing Dinah as a detective. And I like seeing her as a professional because she doesn't sound like a member of the Bat family because she's not, but she's still a overtly competent superhero. And this feels like a Birds of Prey story. And it also feels like kind of almost a noir detective story in that way, without the sort of sordid trappings of that genre. So I dig it.
I'm so glad. Okay, moving on to Robin 98. And I've got a hard question to ask you in this, just FYI. But we do have a bit of a continuity overlap, just that, here we're seeing, but in your trade, you said that this popped up earlier. So I guess it works out a bit more. But in this trade, it's a bit jarring that, hey, he's already in Gotham, But yeah, Alfred's already in Gotham.
And he doesn't give a crap about Tim Drake's problems.
I know. Let's see here. Oh yeah, about all the different people in his life. Now there was
my roommate's an alcoholic, and this. I missed the part where that's my problem.
Oh no, that was sad. Now there was something I thought that. Oh, here it is. Now, this might be hard for you to hear. So on this particular page, as he's walking down, Master Bruce seldom knows what's best for him, besides the manners unattended. You must decide, Master Timothy, if your sense of betrayal outweighs your feelings for Master Bruce. Do you think, wow, in our relationship, Donovan, do you feel like this is tough for you sometimes to decide between your sense of betrayal versus your feelings for me?
Sometimes. Flipping the question around.
Oh, did you say sometimes? That's interesting. I guess it depends on the betrayal. I bet they've not been too terrible of betrayals. I think sometimes the initial reaction is like, how dare you? We'll never get past this. But then moments later, I'm like, oh, it'll be okay.
My favorite "How dare you" was when I brought up that snake issue in Batgirl, and you had a conniption fit.
I couldn't believe. Why would you bring up such a terrible issue? Yeah. Okay. My other was this. Yeah, you're still laughing about it. Who locked down the cave?
Question. Maybe Oracle.
Okay.
That's a good point. But also, it must be said around this time in Robin, Batman had also been training a blonde-haired girl in a purple costume. She's not Robin at all. She's still a ways from that, about 40 issues or so. But he is actively training Stephanie. And when Tim was missing, because he was training Stephanie, that's when he told Stephanie that Robin was Tim Drake.
Yep.
And so she was kind of being ingratiated by Batman on a level she hadn't been for a very long time. And now she's like, all right, it's time for practice. And then like she's locked out and she has no idea what's going on.
Yeah. And then she has to walk back 10 miles. And here's Cass. I don't know how Cass got there, but there she is. And yeah, just with where this is placed, it's weird that it would make sense. I think that this fell. It should fall before Birds of Prey, because then it would make sense of why she is looking for, Dinah, or looking to hang out with somebody.
And Stephanie talks just such crap to Cassandra. And that's, again, Chuck Dixon. Chuck Dixon always had Stephanie just be not very, but like just like dismissive and antagonistic towards Cassandra, where Kelly Puckett brings them together. Yeah. And that develops over other writers. I just think that like Dixon had no time for that character every time he writes her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did have an American Psycho reference just with how they were describing Bruce Wayne. It seemed like that.
Watson Bale.
Yeah, there you go. I think those were the only thoughts I had. I mean, this ending is a bit, especially because like he gets shot and his skateboard is broken. Oh, I thought then you see him elsewhere in another issue and then you come back to this. So that's a bit bizarre. But I didn't have too much to say on this one.
I mean, it's a complete tangent. I mean, like Robin's
there he is.
Involvement is because he's Robin, but
yeah,
his problems really. I love Robin, but like I think in this era, his problems really do seem small potatoes compared to Batman being in prison for murder.
That's true. Oh man, did you cry when you found out Tim Drake died right here?
I probably laughed. Okay. It's been a while since I read this. It's been a while since I've read this issue, so I don't remember.
Oh my god!
Look at that!
This is
Simon Daniel artwork.
He's a villain, clearly. Okay. Oh yeah, I found this interesting. Let's see. Have 5 days in jail done anything to improve your client's memory, or is she still keeping her mouth shut? And I thought, memory and silence are two different things. Can you get it right? But that's just like a nitpick on things. Flaming toilet paper. Let me find that page. Is this maybe it's not. What is this? This flaming toilet paper.
I've seen that in prison before.
You've seen flaming toilet paper in prison before?
I've seen that as a thing, like, just kind of riotous prisoners.
Oh, okay. Where did they get the fire to light the toilet paper roll?
I don't want to speculate. Maybe they like had a match and farted on it or something.
And clearly they didn't live through COVID, where toilet paper was a rare commodity.
No, they're probably all dead by now after that. But like, there's a line I think in the previous page where the bat signals outside of Bruce's window, and he's like watching the signal shine there, like a phone ringing a bad dream. No matter how much I want to, I can't answer it. I'm just like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah. Oh, I like this. I like this one. I'll let you know at the end. We'll actually choose our favorite issue if it's possible for you. I do have a favorite issue in this particular story,
sure.
But I like this, like seeing what is his daily life like in prison. What is it like for him? Is he trying to keep the Bruce Wayne persona? Is he just being Batman? And this is the one, right, where he finally at the end sort of, I mean, look at that scary image at the end.
I mean, I don't know if anybody can like just read this like, I don't like Batman, and read this and like just not get sucked in. I have so much to say about that.
Oh, this scene right here.
Yes,
please.
Because for those who are listening to the audio, Batman or Bruce is in like the mess hall, I think, or just like the recreational place, the room, and there's a news report on, Bruce Wayne's parents were killed in an alley. Did that start his history of violence? And kind of seeing the fruits of that now. Mm-hmm. And the news report trots out all these, the psychiatrist and this behavioral science profiler and all these people, and it feels very real, right? It feels very OJ. It feels like, what would lead somebody to commit murder? Well, if you look into his past, this. And here's the thing, where's the quotes? You have to remember that everything about who we will be is formed inside of us when we are children. To lose one's parents in such a shocking fashion, that is exactly the kind of trauma we look for in early years of violent criminals. And it's like, you watch a guy who watches his own parents get shot to death at 9 years old. We can't understand what that does to a person. I'm surprised he hasn't killed anybody before. Like, the funny thing is, they are off base because Bruce Wayne isn't a killer. He isn't a criminal, or at least as far up to this point. But they're perfectly describing Batman. They hit the nail on the head. They just don't know it. It's like it's like, oh yeah, his parents were killed in front of him. That would probably mess him up. Are we sure that there isn't a double life to Bruce Wayne? They're so close, and Bruce is watching this being profiled, being deconstructed, being examined by like the peanut gallery, and he can't stand it. And I'm just like, that is such great. I can't take it.
And he sculpts out.
And the artwork, he is scowling in every single panel.
So let me ask you this to follow up with that. Do you feel like he leaves and he doesn't want to put up with it because it makes him uncomfortable that they are close to his secret, that they're so close that they can't put their finger on it? Or do you feel like it's almost a sense of masculinity, toxic masculinity? I don't know, that he is being psychoanalyzed and he doesn't want to admit to, potentially a mental illness or a psychosis or something like that. Do you think I don't know, are either of those applicable?
I don't know if I would say that. I don't know if I would say that's toxic masculinity exactly. I mean, it can be an element of that. But you don't want to have people talk about you and who they believe you are, and for it to be wrong, because the way it's pitched and the way that he perceives it, it's about him being a killer and a criminal, and that's not true. But they're misappropriating his psyche and disrespecting him and his family. And he gets onto it later. But they're literally walking all over my parents' grave. This world, this place takes everything from me piece by piece. I can't help it. The mask is slipping, because this is kind of the crux of this whole situation. Why he's reacting so badly against the Bat family's attempts to help him, because who he is and what he wants to do, the Bruce Wayne Batman dynamic, is really in conflict at this point, because it's not, oh, he's Batman or whatever. It's like Bruce Wayne, playboy, socialite, philanthropist Bruce Wayne is wanted for murder. Who is this guy really? And he's like, I've been framed. This is a gigantic waste of time. Someone's murdered a former lover of mine in my own home. I need to solve that. I'm wasting time in here. Like they're saying things about me that's not true. Like all these things that he takes so seriously are crashing into him, and he genuinely cannot. He's losing grip. He's losing his grip on who he is and keeping his emotions in check. He goes, I remember how this felt right after my parents died. The reporters and the photographers, everyone wanting a piece of me, even after I already lost. The woman on the news yesterday, she walked on their grave. Wayne Enterprises is falling apart. Vesper murdered in my home. People walking on my parents' grave. This has to stop. It's I think even the best of times you can sympathize with his plight, because I would, it's kind of like, I don't want, okay, this is going to have a reaction at you. It's what I imagine. It's kind of like being canceled online, because all of a sudden there's this discourse on what you did, what you meant to do, who you are as a result of that, and what should happen to you. In a sense, of course, this is fictional, but this is also much more stark circumstances. But it's that kind of like presumption of identity that, even if you want to therapy into it, you don't want to be like, given therapy by a bunch of strangers who aren't taking you seriously. And to do that to Batman, I mean, I don't know who came up with this idea, but it's such a cool idea. And I think that like, it's some of the best writing is in this issue by Ed Brubaker. What do you think about it?
Oh, yeah. No, and it's interesting just to see the transition. Like, this whole thing is almost like a spectrum, the varied colors of who this man is and how he's trying to keep it together and be Bruce Wayne here. And then it's just really hard. And there's one last moment, I think, that you start to see Bruce when Alfred comes to see him. But then that night, I'm pretty sure it's that night, is when he's just like, I'm done with all of this, when they come to get him.
White supremacists, Aryan Brotherhood, that's it, I'm out of here.
Golly. But yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. And I assume here with the tapping is when he told Alfred to get that base ready.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Morse code that Alfred himself taught him. Mm-hmm. Which is an awesome detail that we rarely see them interact on that level. And and again, it's like, this is the kind of thing that was just like, I mean, Harry and I talk about this often, or at least lately, about like the depictions of Batman in the media. And I just like it. I don't need him to be like, he has a bazillion plans for everything, but he thinks on the fly. So when he employs a technique from the British Secret Service that Alfred taught him, possibly when Bruce was even a kid, I think that's mega cool.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, do this, while he's saying, I'd really like to get back to work, Alfred. Oh, this whole mess, because so there's no way that people can see that, observe that, and think anything of it. And then the next page, he destroys a bunch of racists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting just how like this is the last time we see him as Bruce Wayne, I would say.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree. Yeah,
and then
the dialogue too, like they think Bruce Wayne should be on his knees, begging for mercy on his knees in an alley, in his parents' blood, always weak. But right now, in these short, sharp moments in his dark cell, there is no Bruce Wayne. And I feel that forever how much you can argue about the Bruce Wayne mask or the Batman mask and who he is and who he was when his parents died. In this moment, for the circumstances, this rings entirely true.
Mm.
This because he is at his worst here, and this feels right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do. I agree with you. I think that this is a really strong issue. Really shown. Again, I really like that they showed what his time was like in prison, and then I think. Because there's not much to do, I guess, besides walking the yard and reading and things. He has a lot of time to contemplate, and things are from the outside world coming to him still. And I don't know if that TV program was the catalyst, but it kind of seems like it was, of just like, this is it. And then when we get to this place, it's just a marvelous transition that it doesn't go from like point A to point B, but you see like point A, point 1, point 2, point 3, until you get to B, which is great. It's a really strong issue.
Yeah, no, it's just Scott McDaniel's artwork is just, and these guys are like kind of like half alive, and again, he's being taken to solitary. Like, oh my god, they're arresting him, and I love the detail of the word balloons kind of like swirling and fading in the background as he stares at the bat signal. It's like, again, his sense of identity and his reputation and his psyche is being attacked, and all he's thinking about, like everything that they're addressing isn't me, and that bat signal is me. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold back. Like, this is also, I think you learn now what type of Batman he is, because there's someone in Traction, I think, like he does. Yeah. I guess he does hold back because they're not dead, but he really lets loose to an extent that he doesn't normally.
Yeah, it's a kind of violence. I remember during Lonely Place of Dying in Batman Year 3, when you understand that he teaches Robin, because he knows how to kill, but it's like, we never brutalize. We're not brutalizers. We think with our heads. We never inflict as much damage as is intended. And here, I mean, yeah, these guys are racist, so no one's gonna feel bad for them. But like, they didn't even attack him, really. It wasn't so much self-defense. It was much more of an assault on his part.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's that kind of, it's one of those things where like all things considered, like, oh, no, but it makes for terrific reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on 599?
I mean, I'm just rocking out. If you could see me, I've been like kind of dancing half the time we're doing this, because that issue, that was like the Zaz issue from Nightfall. It was like hardcore action in a way which really, really, because I'm not even into Batman for fight scenes and stuff, but it's not even fight scene, but just like the intensity of Batman in this issue was and for he's a jerk, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I really like him in this one.
Finally.
I mean, were you reading this like, tis tis tis, where's Barbara?
Where's Barbara? Golly, that only happens in Batgirl. No, I recognize that this. Yes, I recognize that this is this is a Batman story. So I don't know how she would insert her. I only do it when it's like, realistically, where is Barbara? She should be here right now. Where is she going to be? Rolling in with the
airing Asian heroes. Where's Barbara Gordon?
Okay. Oh, wait, we're going with this? Did you just call me out on that? The celebration of heroes? Is that what you just did? That's fine. Okay, that's fine. I will absolutely, because you called me an effing troll on your own podcast. Let me just tell you that I want to defend myself because I'm sorry that the videos. I'm sorry the video is not on, but because, hey, I'm so happy for you, Cassandra, that your front page, you've got the Batgirl costume. But at the same time, because we're in this weird, funky continuity, how did you get that Batgirl costume? I'm just afraid that in lifting her up, we've forgotten about the legacy and that there isn't an emotional moment of Barbara giving her the reins of it. That's all I needed. Just like one scene, maybe a candle's involved. Who knows? You know that oath. But that's it. There's nothing wrong with me asking for that. It makes sense.
You weren't asking for that. You were demanding it across the internet. Where's my bar?
The internet. Ay, ay, ay. This is why you and I can never be because of this.
I know.
If we ever went down the aisle, we'd have to have written in our vows that, Cassandra, Barbara, and Bruce would not break us up. Like, we would have to have some serious talk.
What if Cassandra Cain's my best man?
I guess if you wanted to go that way. Any other thoughts on Batman 599?
Oh no, I've been inappropriate enough. I'm sure that you have a lot to say about the next issue.
I do, I think, to a certain extent. Yeah. So just shout out to Ian Prime. He actually posted this recently on Twitter about, I think it was something like the character that got you into the comics and the character that's your favorite now or favorite when you started. And he posted this cover and said, this is, it was just like a standout for him. And I thought, I'm about to, how ironic, here we are. I didn't know that was Sasha, but it makes sense that it is, but it just doesn't look like her. And also, why is she wearing that sort of stuff? And I'm sure that my chief Tata correspondent, Carolyn Coca, the grand professor herself, would have to say something about the Tatas, but I don't know. Okay. I have a serious question for you, an actual serious one.
Sure.
Because this is the second prison issue that we've had. How do you feel the prison scenes and descriptions in this particular story, and even if we think back to the previous one, the Aryans and everything like that, hold up to 2021? Do you feel like there's anything like, because now, when I think about if I see cops and there's like a black character and I'm in 2002, it's going to read differently for me. Or if I'm reading prison scenes, it's going to read differently for me now knowing, this. And she even talks about, the whole first page, this is the first page, right? She talks about Blackgate was designed to hold 900 convicts. It now holds in excess of twice that number. Like that's true to now, probably worse. Just over 300 of them are women. They do have a variety of races and ages as they're shown there. But do you feel like it's as true 2002 as it is 2021? Or do you feel like this maybe shows its age, these two issues, and especially this one maybe?
You know what? Yeah, I was considering modern understanding, like, in a post the New Jim Crow kind of world. It's kind of how the depiction of prison was presented here. Because there's more of this in Bruce Wayne Fugitive. And I was remembering kind of the harsher stuff that happens later on. There was some of it felt kind of cliched and old, right? Mm-hmm. Like the idea of like this is my seat, that kind of thing. Sure, yeah, and it's not the kind of comic thing. But how are they presented? I felt that like there wasn't this sense, like everybody who was in prison deserves it. Mm-hmm. Exactly. It definitely has, it's criminals, but they do kind of just zero in on Sasha. Yeah. But who has bullies, and I'm not sure. But I don't know if Sasha ever says, every single person here is an awful drug dealer. I'm not one of them. It's like she's just kind of focused on the situation, and I think that because again, was this Detective Comics? I feel that this was Brubaker. Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka worked in Gotham Central, and they have a smarter understanding of both the police industry and the prison industry than many writers at the time. So with the the woman calling her Queenie and stuff, there was some cliches, but I didn't feel this was like completely eye rolling because it just kind of zeroed in on Sasha's. I don't even know if Sasha hardly speaks in this issue except for like her lawyer, and it's the situation rather than like I don't deserve a prison. It was just like more of like how am I going to get out of this kind of thing, and that made it an easier thing. I feel that like a lesser writer would have made this much more like prison sucks, never get in here because everyone here is evil, and it's not that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it may be uncomfortable, the fact that the men are in such close proximity to the women. I just feel like Blackgate probably has a high sexual assault rate. I mean, I know they're separated, but I just feel like this no good can come from this, I'm afraid. But yeah.
Yeah.
Was this when she talks about her dislike of... Yeah, there we go. She was vain and selfish. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. Like, is she a reliable narrator or not? She was vain and selfish, and it seemed like she only wanted Bruce for the spotlight he'd bring her. And there are emphases: vain, selfish, Bruce, spotlight. The cops play the 911 call for me. Vesper Fairchild's last moments as a magnetic memory on a spool of tape. She pleaded for her life. She begged. It didn't do her any good. And I close my eyes and I imagine her pain and her terror, and I want to weep for her. So because she didn't deserve that. No one deserves that. So I really appreciated the insight of that. While she may not have liked Vesper, that no woman deserves that, of course. And then you also get a sense of, oh, this was the reason why she was crying and why it really hit her those issues ago when she was being interrogated by Renee Montoya.
Yeah, I think it's cool because, like, it doesn't come across as like, I don't like her because she was Bruce's ex. I mean, there might be some of that, but it comes across as like just, like Vesper as a victim. Yeah, before then, I never had a good opinion of her. But hearing her last moment was just like, the whole thing's just awful. And it makes Sasha feel more of a real character.
Absolutely. So here we are again. Oh, man. She does lie about being in love with him. And this is the part where I was thinking that she's lying, but internally she's telling us what the true answers are. And then... I'm scared. I don't want to doubt. I don't want to lose faith. I lied to David. I wasn't with Bruce the whole night. The night that Vesper died, we were apart twice.
Right. As if the listeners listening hasn't read the story, when Batman and Sasha and Costume went out, there were just a couple of moments where Batman got ahead of her and he beat her back to the Batcave before she did. And she finds him in the Batcave and they both walk up to the stairs, and that's when they discover Vesper. But there are a couple of moments where Batman wasn't with her like 100% of the time. It was like 98% of the time.
Yeah. So doubt is creeping in. So, which is really interesting, especially coming from Sasha. And this is going to be, she's almost the beginning of it. So we had Crispus, who was he's like, yeah, instantaneously. Now we've got someone intimately involved having doubt. And I think this almost paves the way for other people that really shocks you that, oh, there's doubt here. But why wait? Why do you think delay? This is part 8 to bring up potential doubt about Bruce Wayne and coming from this really important character here that's sharing his fate. That's tied. Her fate is tied with his.
That's interesting observation. And perhaps they want, Batman's wanted for murder. Well, obviously he didn't do it. So let's kind of go at clearing him. And they spent this amount of time setting up how complicated the case is. We see what Oracle's doing. We see what everyone's kind of coming back to Gotham. Yeah, the second half is much more emotionally driven. I don't know if I recognize this far in how they kind of set up the doubt. But yeah, we're more than halfway through Bruce Wayne Murderer. And this is where, especially in Gotham Knights, it's not so automatic where you're like, well, he didn't do it because he's acting so weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that the prison violence, well, when I saw the blood, a rat was not what I thought was going to be under there, I have to say. And I think that's probably in real life, or it may be Orange is the New Black has spoiled me there with, well, not really spoiled, but dropped down of what I really would think. But she does, it's sad. She does get attacked later on. She doesn't even realize she's just off in her, well, she had a bad sleep, as she says, but she gets surrounded. I feel like she should have died right here and that she would have been shivved in real life, but perhaps they're saving it. And don't spoil, because I actually don't know what happens. But sure. Yeah, I just feel like she would have died. Do you think is that just me? Do you feel like, without knowing what you do know, that this would have more realistically, she would have been shivved and then died, or seriously wounded?
I'm not saying anything, but I will also say that, like, up to this point, I don't know what I was thinking.
Okay, that's okay. She seems to get it. I mean, she's beat up, but I really badly. This is, of this issue, my favorite moment.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bruce's hand on her shoulder.
Yeah, and So you call me judgmental and hypocritical, and frankly, it annoys you. But I do give him his, I do give him his due when he comes through. And throughout this issue, though, he was a jerk to her because they were really close to each other. It just seemed like chicken wire was separating them. And he never looked at her, never acknowledged her presence or said anything. And then she's like really down. She just got beat up. She's clearly having a tough time. And he chooses that moment, the moment that she needed it the most, to reach out to her. And even that, I guess a little shipper moment, but either romantic or non-romantic of them touching hands, I think is great. It would have been really terrible had he not done anything there. I think that would have been like the breaking point for her, but he really comes in clutch, as they say. So yes. I do really appreciate this. I feel like this is a really beautiful moment and really ugly situation and a setting and a particular issue, really.
Yeah, because she was getting beat up in front of him. Whereas before it was like kind of like dialogue and stuff, and Sasha fought back. But I love it's silent. Yeah. It's completely silent, and then he touches her shoulder, and then the next page, just like that, it's gone. Just like that, there is no doubt. He didn't do it. Yeah. He's Batman. You gotta love it.
You do have to love it. Now, do you think that's Batman or Bruce Wayne there?
That is you know what? Can we return to that after we finish 600?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So sorry. Do you want to talk any more about 767?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. So then we have Nightwing 66, which I thought was pretty cool, especially with Barbara.
Barbara.
Yes. They're coming for you, Barbara. Okay.
Yeah,
is that what you're thinking? I have a couple scenes. Her hair's not too bad here.
I like this design.
Allen. Yeah, I do like it too. It's got a feel, like a particular feel. It kind of has like even her, she kind of reminds me of Audrey Hepburn here. Just like her style that she's wearing, her clothing style and her seating just kind of has that feel to me.
She looks like a librarian to me in this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's who she is at the heart of it. I said page 215. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, first, actually, because that's the heavier stuff, I want to say, hold on. OMG, Orpheus!
Yeah, I know. I ran across this when I was preparing for my presentation at DGSU.
Oh my gosh. I thought he was erased from history after his own story, and then he popped up, and then he was in for 2 pages and was like, okay, I can tell I'm not wanted. I'll just be leaving. But it was great to see him.
Yeah.
His skin looks a bit lighter than I'm used to. But that's
there's a kind of light thing, because in the first thing he has dark skin in the first panel.
He's dark, yeah. Oh, is he?
Yeah, when he's like, I'm one of the good guys. Like he,
yeah. Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. Okay.
Because Nightwing's skin tone is the same as his in that weird one.
Okay. This one and then the next issue, it's all about like conversations. But this conversation between Dick and Babs is something that I want to talk about. Oh, but haven't you, this is Barbara, just for a second in your darkest imaginings wondered if Bruce did murder Vesper Fairchild? And he's, Babs, never. Don't you remember? It wasn't that long ago. I was in Bruce's position, accused of murder, framed. He didn't question my innocence. And then she says, basically calling him out on his jerkishness, no, he just stripped you of your Nightwing identity and left you to the wolves on your own. There was good reason for some of that. He admitted he was wrong after you cleared yourself. That's Bruce's style. He treats us like cogs. And when it turns cold in hell, he apologizes until the next time he walks all over us. Look, forget I said anything. I need sleep. Whoa.
So I want to thank Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon for playing the part of Donovan and Stella.
It really is. Oh my gosh. When I was reading this, I was like, Babs, you got it, girlfriend. You are 100% right. Yeah, I mean, thoughts on this besides it modeling true life?
It is. Well, this is why I not only do I love the story, spoilers, but I had to talk to you about it because there's so much of this. Because it's like ever since the Huntress discussion a few years back, it's like our discussions on Batgirl to Oracle have been kind of leading to scenes like this, where it's just openly talked about, like, listen how it treats us. And I will say that, like, this, what they're referring to, I believe it was like a one shot, if not a mini series. It was outside the main Nightwing book, but it was a Nightwing story where he's afraid of murder. Batman said, you shouldn't be Nightwing because that might tie because I think it was Dick Grayson favorite murder. That might tie you to like Bruce Wayne and stuff. So he adopted like for one story like another identity, and
Was
then
it
at the end he's like,
Ted being Night NINT wing?
no, because that was in the main book.
Okay.
This was like an extra. This is like a fifth week like extra one shot thing. Like it's not out of continuity, but it wasn't among the main title.
Gotcha.
And that was also a long time ago. But like, she's like, he wasn't very helpful in that story, and he's like, oh, he was helpful enough, and she like rolls her eyes.
Oh man, do you feel like?
What?
I wish I could see your face. Do you feel like Barbara's being unfair?
No, not at all. No. She because, and this is Dixon. She like Dixon is having her comment on the crap that Dixon made Batman do, and she's like, he treats us so bad. I wouldn't say treats, but like the way that he dictates things that are important to us don't relay a sense of consideration towards our feelings or care for our well-being. Mm-hmm. And Dick's like, it's not that bad. And she's like, no, it is that bad. Maybe he did kill somebody.
Oh, gosh. Maybe he did kill. That sounds so bad. That sounds like a leap, though. Like just because he treats us as soldiers in his mission and doesn't see us as human beings, he's going to be a murderer. So that does seem like there's a bit of a fallacy there.
So you're questioning Barbara's because Barbara's not saying he did it, but she's saying I'm not 100% positive that he didn't. Like it's like her confidence in him is slipping in consideration of how his behavior has been.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. It's not the same as he did it and we got to stop him.
That. Like he's changed, and so what if this is part of that change?
This isn't the same Batman that like was like crossing his arms at her when she first became Batgirl. This is a different. Yeah. This is a different Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Man,
it's great stuff.
It is great stuff. Thank you. That was maybe there was. I guess that was it. Yeah, the conversation
after the Moxon scene. My trait cuts to Gotham Knights. So all this all this stuff is gone.
Just to see, he had to. Oh, Orpheus.
One of the good guys.
Oh man.
I know. That's a great story.
Golly. Oh yeah, and this. Oh, and that woman crying over him. Pretty interesting. So now you're an expert on women. I never make a statement that.
Yeah.
Call it a feeling. Okay. And Lex Luthor. Really? It doesn't do any of this?
Oh, no. This is all in there. Yeah. The last page, the page you're on right now is the last page of this issue in my trade.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. This right here is cut.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
There's a riot stuff. Yeah. None of this. There we go.
Oh. Wow, that's horrible.
This might be my favorite issue.
How dare you? Why did you spoil it?
Oh, because I betray you all the time.
Well, Donovan, it seems like the wedding's back on because this, in fact, is my favorite issue.
Ooh, well, I said might, so there's still time.
There is still time. Yes. Okay. Well, do you want to say why it may be your favorite issue, or do you want to wait?
What we're talking about is Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
Where
26.
The 26, and it's Nightwing, Robin, Oracle, Alfred, and Leslie Tompkins all talking about Bruce Wayne and really getting into it's if he did it or not by way of what kind of person has he been, and it's just cashing it out.
Yeah.
Because Tim Drake, Batman and Robin were his heroes and such, and he came into their lives when Bruce was still kind of recovering from Jason Todd's death and such, but Dick Grayson is Dick Grayson. So they naturally, and this is where Devin Grayson should really be honored as a writer, because she puts in perspective their relationships. Because Tim says, this must be hard for you. It must be one thing if you knew he was innocent. And Dick is like, how could there be a Robin who thinks that Batman is guilty of murder? But Tim is like, listen, I respect your relationship to him familially, but from my experience with him lately, he's just been acting really weird. Can't we talk about that? and Dick, it's rare to see Dick Grayson this vulnerable, because he's like, no. I will not. I won't do anything less than defend him. And it goes through where basically Alfred and Dick are like, he would never do that. And Barbara and Tim are like, but he's acting kind of weird, yo. Playa.
Yeah.
And Leslie Thompson comes back, which is nice.
And Wesley is also on the lines of, it's potential as well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because she's like, this man has lived by violence for so long that it's impossible to never have corrupted him. Yeah. And Alfred in this, because Alfred doesn't sound as defensive as Dick does. I mean, Dick sounds much more emotionally driven. Like Dick's arguments aren't that believable when Tim and Barbara retort. Alfred feels a lot more reliable. I believe Alfred more than I believe Dick, because Alfred feels a bit more. I mean, he's on Bruce's side, but he feels a bit more objective in that killing in and of itself dehumanizes somebody, and the way that Bruce Wayne has such integrity, that just doesn't go away overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I've been like, hearing myself talk. What do you think about this?
No, you're basically saying everything that I would have said. I can spoil now why this is my favorite issue, because of these conversations. There's basically no action. It's all about, working through these doubts. And you really get a sense of, I was thinking while you were talking, it'd be interesting to do hidden tribes with these characters and figure out where they would be. Maybe for Fugitive we can do that for the intro. But just Dick being such an optimist and an idealist, and be like, he's got to be, and just holding up the mantle of Robin, and like, how can there be a Robin that would believe this in Batman, and each of their relationships coming into play, and how the differing relationships really add a different perspective. And this is why I think what I'm thinking right now. And I love how conversations overlap. So Dick comes and almost decompresses or goes through that conversation with Barbara, and then she tries to give added perspective, and then Tim pops up.
Yeah, she says like, leave, be a little easier on Tim because of all this.
Yeah, and then Tim pops in, and they have another. Oh, I guess there isn't. I lied. There is an action scene right here.
Right.
And then they have, he never taught me to back away from any possibility that might lead to the truth, and he still believes that, right? ? I can't believe. Yeah. So they're just two different.
Love it.
Yeah, man. And then at the end, isn't it? You've got Alfred talking to all the suits as if Bruce were there. And then doesn't it end on a Leslie scene? Yeah, with Bruce. Yeah. So again, another overlap. So it's just amazing how you've got all these people that are so intimately connected with Bruce, having conversations amongst themselves, then moving on to another person, almost rehashing it or saying like this happened, and getting more feedback, and then going back, and then overlap, and seeing all this happen. Of course, Dick and Alfred being really the staunchest supporters of Bruce, and not having doubt, and then ending with Leslie. I just think that it's marvelous. It's marvelously written. I think it's beautiful. It's hard. It's tragic. I just love the conversations. And this is one of those, points that comics don't need to have action. It did have a scene, but it could just be these really emotional and soul-bearing conversations between people. And I feel like Devin Grayson really understands the characters well to have those interactions. And I love that Tim came to talk to Barbara about that as well. But Dick was already there, which just shows,
Oh, I kind of want to talk to her before seeing you again.
Yeah. Yeah, which just shows, I just love, because I don't talk a lot about the Tim and Barbara relationship, but whenever I see them two together, I really love them. So yeah, it's just an amazing. I would give this, if we were grading individual episodes, I would give this a 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. I don't care what Devin Grayson did to Dick. What she missed was a mistake. Like, I think she's like Tom Taylor. She understands these characters. It's that kind of synergy where it's not just knowing who they are and how they would react, but how they react towards each other. And I mean, Leslie's written terrifically, because she's not a bazillion% positive that Bruce didn't do it, but she still says, Bruce, come safely home. Your family is very worried of you. Whatever you might have done, I will not give up on your soul. So it almost to her doesn't matter, because he's been living by violence all around. She still loves him. There's a scene where Dick and Tim are having their requisite fight scene with thugs in an alley. Nightwing says, there are 3 things I need you to know. I mean, really know deep in your gut. 1, as long as you're safe with Batman or me, you're safe. Neither of us would ever let anything happen to you. 2, we don't quit. not once has anyone who knows Batman's mission failed to get up after being knocked down. 3, Batman does not kill. Not ever. And then Robin says, 1, Jason Todd, 2, Jim Gordon, 3 so far. Sorry. Like, and Alfred's like, are you for real? But like, it's, because it works for the reader as well. It's like these characters are trying to kind of, have their conversation with the reader who's really not sure. And I remember the last page, people are really afraid that DC was doing this to Bruce because it wasn't a bazillion miles away from how he was behaving, in previous stories. There's that page where Alfred recalls that Bruce Wayne's done, where, he abandoned Gotham City during No Man's Land. He acted the way he did during Officer Down, and, he blew Robin's identity after Robin tried so hard to keep it for Batman's sake, to spoiler. So there are examples of Bruce kind of acting out of character recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just silent as Alfred is kind of going through it to kind of drive towards his thought process. And again, he did this, and those are moments where you're like, well, that was kind of weird of him, but that was kind of dark. But now it's just like, is this development towards the route we don't want them to end up? And to me, it makes all the sense in the world that, like, if you think back to like the 60s Batman with Adam West and Burt Ward, Alfred and Dick Grayson are the 2 closest people to him. So they would have to have his back no matter what. If the whole world was against him, they would always defend him. But the people closest to Bruce after Dick and Alfred are Leslie, Barbara, and Tim. And they're on Bruce's side, but they can't lie to themselves about how his actions make them feel. And it's just, it's very, very good.
Absolutely. Yep. And here's that page that you were talking about. The bottom right, I'll just call hypocrite now because 600 is when he calls out Cass knowing his identity. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this, but gosh, that is an amazing issue.
I give it 10. What?
Okay, here's a little shipperific shipperific cover. It is Robin 99. I will say that, yes, crazy continuity. Here he is. He has awakened from the dead. So he's actually not had any confrontations with Dick. Oh, I did see something. It was this one that I saw that was funny. Oh, I hope I find it.
The first page where he's Robin is where my trade starts on Robin.
Oh, really? Look at this.
Yeah.
Do you see something in that
a Batman
panel?
Plush?
But what's in the plush?
What's in the plush? A utility belt?
Pins. There are pins stuck in the Batman doll.
Oh, good Lord.
I wrote this.
Yeah, evidently.
Oh, man. Can you answer me this question? When was Jack rich? Has Jack been rich all the time, Jack Drake? 'Cause now he's not rich anymore.
Yeah, that was something that definitely that Dixon led into, because Dixon's last issue in Robin is 100, and it ends with him with them being a lot more middle class. They lose their maid, Mrs. Mack, and stuff. He's never been like Bruce Wayne rich, but he was wealthy. Like because Tim was in boarding school, and him and his wife would travel, and that's how Tim was training as Robin, because they were always away. And I forget what he did, but he was like not terribly hard up for money. Now, throughout the Robin series, he was portrayed as particularly middle class. Like they weren't like in business suits and stuff. But yeah. It is kind of a thing where like they had money, and then by the end of this run, they don't.
Okay. I don't have much to say about this except that it was a crazy continuity in the Batman doll. Do you have anything to say about this one?
Well, I mean, there's this whole scene with J. Devlin Davenport, who was a kind of like a recurring character in Dixon's Batman run all throughout the 90s. Like, he was in Detective Comics, he was in Batman, and he was just this rich jerk. Like, he was just part of Gotham society, who was rich, he was selfish, he was kind of a bad guy. He wasn't a crook, but he was just, he's kind of like Red Herring from like a pup named Scooby-Doo. Like, you think he'd be a criminal, but he's just a jerk. And they're kind of probing to see, does he dislike Bruce Wayne? Did he set him up? And he's like, nah, not really. And that's all there is to it. I mean, Pete Woods is a good artist, but yeah, no, this is, again, the Robin issues are really the most tangential ones that were
no doubt.
I know that Chuck Dixon said he didn't like a lot of the crossover stories. I forget what he said about Bruce Wayne Murderer, but like clearly when it comes to Nightwing or Birds of Prey or Robin, he has his own plots that don't concern the overall story arc, whereas before that may not have been true.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's fatigued after Joker last laugh.
Yeah.
And then here's yet another hairstyle, just FYI. So there you go. Okay, so then we'll move on to our
Birds of Prey
penultimate issue. Yep. So Birds of Prey 40, another lovely cover by Phil Noto, and the colors are different this time. So we've got more red, blues, and purples, or salmons maybe. And Barbara, not a floating head. You can see her shoulders. It's a bust.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I have to say? Oh, we find out here that Vesper most likely knows that Bruce is Batman because of all of her investigations. Yes. We have more Canary and Spoiler. Did you have this in yours? That their little team up where Canary Spoiler has an issue because her father and Riddler are hanging out and there are a bunch of other criminals at the house and her mom can't kick them out because she's scared for good reason. Was this in your trade?
That was a lot of that stuff that you're mentioning was actually in like various Robin issues.
Okay.
But no, my Birds of Prey thing, it starts with Robin in the top left corner with a bunch of green lights.
Oh, green lights, you said.
So all this Ted Kord stuff is not there. That's where it starts.
Yeah. Yeah. So just it's fun to see Canary and Spoiler hang out. Spoiler keeps saying we, like, what are we going to do in the meantime? Because there's just a wait, I think, until Babs can download and listen to all the audio from Vesper. And Dinah's like, what do you mean we? And so anyways, Dinah uses her canary cry and freaks all of the people out, and without much fighting gets them out of the house. And Spoiler is happy about that. I was surprised Riddler didn't know Black Canary. He's like, who are you? I thought that Black Canary would have been more well known.
That's weird. Yeah.
I don't know you, lady. That's kind of weird. Anyways, there was a question. Let's see. Has Bruce not worked through his trauma with the shooting? I think this was when she was talking with Tim.
This is where it's revealed that he bought the gun.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yes, good one there. A guy who, here we go. So funny, isn't it? A guy who hates guns so much, because Bruce actually was there. There's videotape. Up to then, it's just been like someone has said that he bought it. And Babs says hates them, but doesn't fear them. And Tim says, not the way he jumps in the line of fire night after night. Line of fire, Babs says. I was afraid of them for a long time. I'd go faint at the sight of a gun on TV. You have reason, Barbara. So does Batman. But I worked through them, Barbara says. Maybe Bruce hasn't. Maybe he's not the Rock we thought he was. And Tim says he bought a gun as therapy. And she says, look at the facts. He bought it just like any other citizen, like he wanted to experience it as someone else would. So what do you think about this? Has he not worked? Do you agree with this, that I was going to say hypothesis, that Bruce hasn't worked completely through his trauma and that this is the way to do it? And then I guess my follow-up would be, if it is that what he's doing, why would it be? It seems so late in the game to do it. You know, I would have thought that he would have attempted this a bit earlier. But yeah, so thoughts on this conversation and that hypothesis?
I like Tim and Barbara talking through this is cool. The Bruce and the gun thing, I mean, again, this will be revealed or answered in Bruce Wayne Fugitive.
Okay.
But I remember when I was reading it back in the day, I was like, why is he doing that? Because it was such a like, wait, he bought the murder weapon? Like that really perplexed me. I could not think of a single reason why he would do that. And the idea that, maybe he bought his therapy, that's kind of a wild presumption. Possibly.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that, like, you know, because this is something that Chuck Dixon has established before. Like Batman and Robin know how to use firearms, but they don't use firearms. Like, they know how to use it. They know how it's used. They know how to disarm them. They know how to disassemble them. They know how to reassemble them. He has an armory in the Batcave, but that's not part of their arsenal. Specifically, he says, you know, we are not afraid of them, but he does. And this is brought up again recently in Batman Urban Legends. Like Jason Todd found his arsenal, and Batman's like, yeah, but we don't use these. But it's interesting that, like, he goes out and just buys an everyday gun, looking like a criminal would. Like, I should say like a criminal would precisely, but like the way that it's depicted looks like someone in his position who's arrested for murder might. So Tim and Barbara are like, okay, so why does somebody who kind of has a distaste for guns do that? And they kind of try to psychoanalyze him in a way which I'm sure those news reporters also tried to do, because I'm sure they got that footage as well.
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite line from Barbara is in the next page.
Oh,
where it's like Bruce Wayne escapes, Bruce Wayne escapes, and she's just like, arrogant fool.
I know.
She's like, what is the matter with him?
No faith in us, no faith at all. Oh, which is true because he actually calls them out. He actually confesses that later in 600 that he didn't expect more from them, or didn't guess.
I expected better from that. Wait, no, I didn't.
Yeah, crazy. Any other thoughts on this? Oh man, look at that! Look at his face. I'm here, Babs, and I heard I'm on the way to the cave, and Bruce better have some answers.
Yeah,
everyone's converging at this point. Oh man. No, Robin, not by yourself. Oh golly.
And poor Babs is stuck on Skype for the rest of the story.
I know, that's terrible. Yeah, she's yelling at them like, please stop.
Stop. I find that funny, but yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay, so this is it. Batman 600.
The cops are like, Bruce Wayne would never return to the scene of the crime, as we see Batman in the Wayne Manor.
There he is, and that's the best way to do it. Man, do we find out how he escaped?
No, but I mean, he's Batman. Okay. I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, we go through his sordid history with Vesper, as well as other people like Silver St. Cloud and Selina too, right?
Selina, Dick Grayson. This is not how it went down in 1969. They did say goodbye to each other, so like this is sort of a retcon here, and he follows down to Jason Todd in the Batcave. Yeah. Where he's like, did you treat Dick like this? And he's like, you listen to me or you turn in your costume. Which I think is fair because, for God's sake, it's Jason Todd.
Absolutely. Okay. Oh, here it is. Bruce, we need to talk. All of us.
Oh, yeah.
So an intervention. Oh, now something looks the matter with Cass. To be continued.
Yep.
We don't know what it is, but we also do know what it is, but we won't say here.
Yeah, you know what it is.
I do. Okay, an intervention. Okay. Oh,
and Bruce says, you're calling me Bruce in front of her. He points at Sandra. She knows. I see.
Golly, isn't that terrible? He like treats her like a non-entity, like she didn't need anything because of her.
That thing, that inanimate object over there. You dare call me by my Christian name in front of her?
Yeah, it's like that panel in God Loves Man Kills where he's like that, mutie or whatever it was.
Yeah, you call that human?
Yeah, that's what it is. There's a really potent line. I don't know if it was at the end, but Dick wonders who he is without Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's like. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to. I was thinking about that today.
Was it at the end?
This leads up to like Batman has no intention of clearing Bruce Wayne's name because they asked him.
Okay.
Well, I just want to kind of guide us there because he's like, you guys do what you got to do. I'm out of here. And how does Bruce Wayne's innocent? It doesn't. Bye. And then Tim pulls on his cape and he's like, tell us you didn't do it. And Batman's like, oh, so it's like that. And Dick's like, no. Barbara's like, yes. And Tim's like, maybe. And Cassandra says nothing. And then they're like, look, Batman was like, I don't believe you could have done this. And Barbara's like, I don't either. But this, this is really weird. First, there's this video footage of you buying the murder weapon. Is this you? And Batman's like, yeah, that's me. And then he's like, why would you do that? He's like, you wouldn't understand. So he doesn't answer about that. And then they go through the idea that Vesper Fairchild figured out he was Batman, was going to go to the press, which he says it's not true. She was not going to do that. And then Nightwing's like, listen, there's a lot of evidence against you. Let us help you, please. Batman closes his eyes, and then he says, see ya. And so Nightwing yells at him for several pages, and then gets to the point where he's like, how can you do this? Because there is no Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. Bruce Wayne is a mask that I wear. I've been wearing it since I was a child, but now it's a liability. So it's over. And Dick is losing it because he's like, no, listen, where does it leave you and I? You and me. If there is no Bruce Wayne, then who was Dick Grayson, the adopted son of? Who raised me? Mm-hmm. Can you answer that? For the second time, or maybe the third time, Batman can't answer. He's just silent. And then he just, presses rewind and says, I'm leaving. And then that's when everything goes to hell.
Yeah. He tries to get in the car multiple times and Dick, doesn't do it. I thought that was really poignant there. Yeah. Who is Dick Grayson if there's no Bruce Wayne?
Because it interrogates, like, are you telling me that, like, our entire relationship was a plan by the Batman? or was it Bruce Wayne who saw himself in Dick Grayson and brought him into his life for a better life? Which is true and which is not? And if Bruce acknowledges, oh yeah, the evidence of Bruce Wayne is standing right in front of me, then his entire raison d'etre for behaving this way falls apart. And so he doesn't know how to answer that because he's kind of crazy in this moment.
On the flip side, do you feel like this is almost a negative character aspect of Dick, and he should be his own man? And why can't he be Dick Grayson without anybody else? I mean, wasn't that one of the primary reasons he became Nightwing, to become his own man apart from Batman?
No, because this is not about him being an independent person. This is about how how he sees Bruce Wayne and how he relates to Bruce Wayne. This isn't about his sense of self. This is about, okay, yeah, Bruce Wayne, yeah, Batman, he doesn't work for him. They're not blah 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 blah. But he's not going to pretend that they don't have any relationship. And again, Bruce just made him his adopted son legally. That meant a lot to Dick. I think they were both crying when they did that. So to throw that all away, it's like if you say what you're saying, then my life, my own sense of identity suddenly doesn't make any sense because I didn't just go off into limbo after my parents died. I was Robin, but I'm still Dick Grayson. And again, that silent panel of Batman speaks volumes because it reinforces the fact that he didn't bring in Dick for some clinical reason. He brought in Dick because he could not ignore seeing himself in Dick Grayson and, the father and son relationship that they built out of that foundation. And that's a Bruce Wayne thing. That's not a Batman thing. It's not part of the mask, because if that was part of the mask, then Dick Grayson wouldn't be a real person. And so, he just repeats himself again because it's kind of like not knowing what to say to somebody that you're, being at a loss for words, essentially.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm leaving now. Whatever's Bruce Wayne is staying up in that house. And Dick has absolutely had it. Or I can't remember the last time they came to blows like this. I mean, in New Titans 55, after Jason dies and Dick yells at him about it, Bruce does hit him there. But here, Nightwing is laying into Batman quite a bit. And I remember reading this and feeling my hands shake as I was turning the pages. Yeah, one free one that I'm leaving, and Nightwing just and the entire time you can imagine Barbara's just slamming on the screen. Stop it!
I know, and everyone else is agog. You've got Cass back there, and yeah. Tim is watching his heroes fight. They're flying through the Batcave, and Dick is just yelling, "Stop it! Stop avoiding me! Acknowledge me!" And Barbara's right to ask him to stop it because what's it going to solve? But I think Tim and Cass worried for each other's safety. And then when Nightwing says, "Acknowledge me, damn it," Bruce lays him out on his feet with two hits and says, "Stop calling me Bruce." And so he starts fighting back. Nightwing throws a roundhouse punch, and the inevitable happens, and he flies straight into Jason Todd's memorial. Yeah. Because remember, kids, this is back when Jason Todd was still very much dead. And that gives everyone the distraction Batman needs to hightail it out of there. Skedaddle. Yeah. Oh no, you've touched his costume.
Oh God. Yeah.
Luckily, I mean, Cass, you kind of see her small back there, but I'm glad that they focused on the characters that really understand what the significance of that is, because I think she's not so in the family yet that she knows every little detail of why this would be important. But I think she understands the crux of it. Is Batman's mission different without Bruce?
Well, I mean, it definitely depends on kind of the angle you go at it. Like is it different for Batman, or is it different objectively, plainly? Because as Bruce Wayne, he maintains the face of his father's company. He maintains a face of public good in Gotham, but he also maintains a celebrity that kind of gives Gotham a reputation to have influential people living there, as well as maintaining various businesses to help with charities and technological development. As Batman, he's somebody who utilizes Bruce Wayne's sense of justice and sense of anger towards criminality to excise it in a way which he feels is the most positive and best way to fight crime. So if he's just Batman, then he's really not any different than any other vigilante who lives. I was ever talking to Harry about the Punisher. The Punisher doesn't live anywhere. He doesn't have, a different identity. He doesn't answer anybody. He doesn't have anybody that he reports to. He's just his mission 24/7, and he has very little friends because of it, and very little respect. Like remember in Civil War when he kind of capped those two D-list villains, and Captain America beat him up. It's like I must have been crazy to bring him on my team. Like there's very little respectability about somebody like that who only uses their means to commit violence. And with Bruce Wayne's means, his wealth, there goes the charity, there goes the Wayne Foundation, there goes Lucius Fox and a lot of good Lucius Fox does through Wayne Enterprises, there goes the youth center, there goes funding the Leslie Thompson's clinic on Park Row, there goes all of that, because Batman's got to punch the Joker in the face.
I'm just on this page with Barbara crying, and then Cass is the one who brings it up that Batman never answered the question, never said he didn't kill the woman, but he didn't. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting that she and then poor Dick walking away.
He looks so
he really or what? No offense, but I always thought if you two ever came to blows, he'd really nail you. And then he said he did Tim. It's so sad. Yeah, look at this.
Let him down.
I expected more from them. No, I didn't. Or I would have told him about my escape plan. I'm like, oh, what a terrible man you are, sir. And then he goes into a nuclear submarine.
Bat Jerk Incorporated.
Yes, please. I will go. DC, pay me to write that book.
It'll be 600 again and again and again. I love that shot where like the smoke's rising from the room as Batman leaps off a building. That's
it's kind of weird because I thought that he was going underground and then all of a sudden he's above ground. I had to kind of figure out what was happening there, where exactly the cave or his new base of operations is. Yeah, so I mean he's going for it. He's 100% Batman. And I told Donovan about this. I was like, he laid this guy out. He's mugging. Maybe there's a potential assault in the works, but let's say it's a mugging and he throws 3 batarangs in that man. So Overkill is his middle name. And that's
it's a guy's arm. It's his arms. It's not his face or anything.
You know what? What if it's his chest? What if you can't see well enough? Okay, whatever. Well, Donovan, I know you love this particular issue. What would you like to say about it?
I just remember feeling so scared when I was reading this. Like is DC turning Batman crazy? Do we have to accept this?
Yeah,
because like the Bat family reacts to it. It's not just whatever you say, Batman, and like us, like the Snyder movies pretending that this is normal human behavior. Like everyone's like, what are you saying? Because this concept of Bruce Wayne as a masked Batman is a real identity. I mean, there's a logic to it. Like Kevin Conroy kind of sees the character like that, but I like how this story. I mean, we can continue this conversation in Bruce Wayne Fugitive, but this really is kind of the ultimate story of who Batman is, because you have the brutality and the violence and the cold behavior running up against the evidence of love that is embodied in the Bat family, because everyone that he's brought into his life are rushing to defend him, and he's making it harder for that. And then they have to wonder what effect has he had on their lives, and has he changed? Was he always this way? Who is Batman? And I just feel that like in that way, this is one of the more subtle explorations of Batman's character in ways which I feel that there just aren't writers right now that are smart enough to perceive it in this light. It's either just he's either a dick or he's not. And it's not like, of course, this is a very extenuating circumstance. He's wanted for murder of a former girlfriend. So his actions make sense. But what's going on is that this is an exploration of him being like this. It's not saying that this is right. It's not saying this is who he is. It's threatening the idea of him being, because he looks like a monster. He's hulking over. He's gritting his teeth all over the place. Like he looks scary. Yeah, and like Robin pulling on his cape is
like
kind
a
of
kid almost.
Yeah, it's kind of a stark image, and you have Cassandra, the new kid, like witnessing all of this, and it's like he's on his worst behavior in front of her. He's clearly been trying to make an example in front of her and raise her right in terms of how he wants to raise her, and here he's just like flittering about, acting crazy in front of people who know him better than she does. But and again, we can complete this conversation after Bruce Wayne Fugitive.
Yeah.
But here it's like everyone's worst idea of Batman. Like, because I really can't stand listening to podcasters go on about the character because I feel that like they've not read the story. Where this idea of him of this being the default persona is accepted rather than understood as an aberration, because this is an aberration, and this is the comic book and the characters and the writers who work on him best, like Ed Brubaker, Chuck Dixon, Devin Grayson, saying that this is very wrong and we need to know how this happened. And it's just masterful. I mean, I know I put this in my top 10 Batman stories when I wrote about it on TBU, specifically Batman 600. And I just think that, like, as awful and traumatic as it is to read, I love how the Bat family respond to it and the artwork that accompanies just like the intense feelings and emotions that go through it. I mean, again, because it's not to jump ahead of you, it sounds like you enjoyed the story. And to me, it's just like you just don't get storytelling this way, this good anymore, or at least it's been a long time.
Yeah, I'm not
like
sure.
when you went into this, did you know what to expect?
No, I suppose my expectation was, well, clearly he didn't do it, so they're gonna find some way to get him out of it, and that didn't happen. And then it was not, certainly the murder is the focal point, I suppose, but the greater story is about what is the sort of the true persona and what's been going on, and then stripping everything away, and here we're getting to this guy here, and what's the real story behind all of it, and to be continued. And so it became more complicated than I think on the surface I would have thought about.
Did you have any particular moments from, I mean, you listed what Dick says to Bruce. Was there anything else that kind of struck out to you that you haven't mentioned about this issue?
About this issue? No, the fight, it's always hard when, and there's always the cliche, like two heroes meeting each other for the first time. Of course, there's going to be a fight, but this is hard. This is hard to watch. And, I feel like to a certain extent, Bruce is wanting not to connect physically with Dick for personal and emotional reasons, and then he does just like lay him out, and golly, to almost like have your hero really just disappoint you and everything you've learned was a lie. It's really hard. It's hard for all of those people that are involved there. I wonder, too bad we didn't get a perspective of Cass and how she's been dealing with all of this stuff.
And she's like, this is weird.
Wasn't it? I feel like she's probably really confused, and it'd be interesting to get into her headspace of like, why is he like this? I don't have much else to say. I have a couple, like 2 questions overall stuff, but any other thoughts on 600?
I mean, so definitely one of my favorite Century issues, because 500 was Nightfall, where I think Azrael defeated Bane. 400 was a story where Batman, where basically Ra's al Ghul broke out all the villains from Arkham, and Batman and Jason Todd had to stop him. And then beyond that, I'm not really familiar with 100, 200, 300. And then 700 was a Grant Morrison issue, I think, where Dick and Damian were Batman and Robin. 800, I don't remember. I think that was a New 52 story. Same with 900. And then 1000, we actually have copies of 1000. Oh, no, Batman 1000's not come out yet. So I'm not positive. I think
you're a fake fan. You don't even know when certain issues are out.
I sure am fake.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so I have 2 questions. One of them is something that I could have asked way long ago, but here we are. Why do they never show Bruce's emotional state regarding Vesper and the death?
They don't show it now.
Oh, okay. So it does pop up? That question gets answered?
Yeah, once you get into Fugitive, there's a lot more of a Bruce Wayne's perspective.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Okay, how does this for you? You kind of talked about this, but here we are. How does this rate with other events for you?
I was actually thinking about that as I was just like slobbering a minute ago. After Nightfall, this is probably my favorite Batman story.
Okay.
I mean, in addition to like Batman Ego, Batman Venom, all that kind of stuff. But like in terms of the crossovers, like the Bat family crossovers, it's Nightfall and Bruce Wayne Murderer, definitely. I really love it. You
consider this separate than Fugitive? So when you're really thinking about it, you think the Murder Fugitive and that as a whole, this is up there? Or are you treating it separately?
I think it's kind of like how, okay, so like my favorite part of Nightfall is the part 1 Broken Bat, where it's Bruce Wayne. And I love all the stuff that comes after it, but that's my favorite bit. I like a lot of Fugitive, but my favorite stories are in here.
Okay.
If that makes sense. But I do consider them like Bruce Wayne Murder and Fugitive as a whole.
Yeah. I think it's up there for me. I don't know if I've ever sat down and made a list, and now it's ever changing because I'm constantly moving forward in history, which sounds like a weird phrase. Maybe it's top 5. I'm just thinking of the big ones. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you liked it.
No Man's Land, I think, might be number 1 if I were to think about crossovers and all of that. And Nightfall, I did have fun with Nightfall. So I might have to think a bit more of that before I fully answer. I should have maybe done research. But yeah, I would say probably top 5 if I'm thinking about it.
There's a lot of Oracle in this.
Oh, yeah, there is. And Oracle is speaking the truth. She is speaking.
What do you mean? She only called him an arrogant fool and said that she treated Nightwing crappily.
And and they were cogs in a machine. Oh my goodness. Okay. Do you want to fall down now on your favorite issue?
I mean, I love the Gotham Knights run, period. With the Devin Grayson run of that series. And yeah, it's like Gotham Knights, Batman 599. Oh, well, okay. Thank you for being here this late.
Oh, it's 12:13. It was my technology's fight. No, it's fine. It's fine.
I probably got the Gotham Knights 26, but it's like A plus, and then A is Batman 600, Batman 599. That's probably the top 3 for me. I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. And then I've already said my 1. I think I'll just say my top was Gotham Knights 26, right? Yeah. Okay. And then final question on this, and then we'll wrap it up. What would you give it out of 10 Bruce jerks? Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Are you kidding me? 10. Yeah, your Court of Owls, or your Joker Wars, or your whatever, or your Long Halloweens, or your Dark Knight Returns, or your Also Rants, or your top 5 list of stories that every idiot has read already and considers as a Batman fan because it's cliched. Bruce Wayne Murderer Fugitive is one of the best Batman stories ever told. And I'm not even saying it's a hot take, it's the right take.
Uh-huh.
And because the story is so repeatedly slept on, it reinforces my idea that nobody else knows how to do these characters like some of these writers here.
Okay.
I might give this to Harry because I think Harry would really enjoy this.
There you go. Give him all the gifts. I think I'm not going to give it a 10. I think I would maybe give it because I have some issues with the Robin things, that there were unnecessary stuff, and Cass not being involved in the secret. That was a bit bizarre. And anything else? Yeah, I just have little nitpicks here and there that make it not a 10. So I'm going to say 9.5. I'm so sorry. The 26 I'd give a 10. Certain issues maybe I would, but the overall experience I wouldn't. Okay, Donovan, you're wearing a shirt. Would you like to show what your shirt is? I haven't done what you're wearing for a long time, actually.
I forget if I wore the other version of this, like the Fox Kids version, but it's the Tim Levins from the Gotham Knights artist. It is the new Batman Adventures, Batman with Bat Family, with Batman, Robin, Nightwing with his Batman and Harley haircut. Your girl.
Yeah.
And Alfred Pennyworth.
How apropos, really, for this show to wear that.
Yeah, I wasn't wearing a shirt for a while. Then when we were trying to record, I threw this on.
You better. Oh, well, it works out. And then I'm wearing something that's not even related. Oh, well, it could be related a little bit. Well, it's related to you. It's related to you.
Did somebody eat a butt?
It's an avocado. Do you see the avocado? There's a little butt there.
That's not where my
One of my coworkers gave this to me when I left UVA. She gave it to me, and I was like, "This is perfect." And I also want to point your attention to the fat man right here. Another coworker got that little pop fig for me. He was on my wish list, and I have to say, he's heavy. He's heavier compared to other pop figs. I'm like, okay, thank you for really leaning into this. So I'm happy to have Kingpin there. He's a handsome fella. Okay, Donovan, we've come to that time where you get to pimp yourself out about quinoa.
Well, you can find me on the street, throwing tricks. at qnoanswers.com, where myself and everyone's favorite sci-fi and Asian cinema discussion the word, Harrison Shoot, chicks call him Harold. We both host questions we don't have answers. We discuss, it's three-pronged: media, politics, and ourselves.
Okay.
The most recent episode we did, and this was Harry's idea, is because we spent 4 years just pulling our hair out during the Trump administration. So Harry thought we should probably do that for Biden. So we brought on a friend, Noah Berlatsky, to discuss how Biden's administration is doing so far. We have a commentary lined up. And then I've not told Harry this as of yet, but I do have an idea to talk about the manga industry and how it may chafe with American sensibilities. And all of that is genuinely based on my experience as a bookseller at Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
It's informed through that business. But you can find our stuff, again, at qnoanswers.com. Also, check out from With Eyes East, both the blog and the YouTube channel, where you can literally see Harry discuss various Asian films, as well as really bad films that aren't Asian, like the Conqueror. It starred John Way. It was one of my favorite videos. Oh. But check out his blog. His blog is great. He talks about it was a John Way movie where he played Genghis Khan.
Okay.
But his blog is terrific. He has several entries on various actors, various films. That's With Eyes East. I review Nightwing currently on the Batman universe. That's how I legitimize myself there. Mm-hmm. You can find my work on DC Infinite on that website. And I do also do some freelance stuff, but it's not to the public as of yet. But my Twitter handle is DonoDMG1. Thank you, love, as always, for having me on your show and for crying in joy about this story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being with me and enduring through some tech issues. So for years now, I basically have decided that the Quinoa podcast is illegitimate because they literally have no answers ever. And I've come to realize quite recently they do actually have an answer. And there's one answer for every question they ask. And the answer is hentai.
I mean, you're kind of spoiling the show. I mean, we do end with, being carried away by tentacles. So I wish you wouldn't give the game away.
Yeah.
But, we've talked about Evangelion. We've talked about Kill I Kill. Well, no, we've not, but we've referenced it. So, yes, never not think of hentai, particularly hens with long ties. Mm-hmm. And, show off your hentais to your friends.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, you can send any questions or comments to me, batgirltheoracle@gmail.com, or to Donovan.
DonoMark2468@gmail.com.
Okay. You can also find the show on Google Play and Stitcher, like the show on Facebook, or follow it on Twitter @BatgirlTheOracle, and subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version. I've got to figure out now how to splice 3 videos together at one point. Maybe I'll figure it out. Follow the Batman universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. It's so late. Support the Batman universe by subscribing to Patreon. And once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. Now, next time, Donovan, are we doing Cassandra v. Shiva, or are we doing Fugitive? We should
probably do 25.
Okay.
And then get into Fugitive, and then you deserve a break.
Maybe, well, if we do 25, it could be a short episode, so that might be nice.
Sure. That's one issue.
Stuff, and then some modern stuff. So it could be nice. Maybe we could do that Hidden Tribes. We can take on a character, like you could be Tim and I could be Babs, and answer as I believe she would answer it.
Who is the Tradcon and who is the Tradlib?
Ooh, who knows? Okay, well, until then...
Fight on, cast lovers.
Okay, you're ridiculous. I should know better. Fly on,
Babs lovers.
Just plain Barbara Gordon, masquerading for a lark as she rides into the night on her special Batgirl cycle. Who knows? Is the dynamic duo destined to become the triumphant trio? Only time will tell us more about this dazzling daredoll.
I love a happy ending, don't you?